It's time for Twit This Week in Tech. What a great panel. Georgia Dow, Larry Magid, Brianna Wu. Yes, she's back from her election, and we'll talk about Election Day 2018 for Brianna. Facebook's crisis management. Julian Assange, he's apparently being charged. What's going on there? Amazon's new HQ, and a whole lot more. It's going to be a great long twit. Sit back, enjoy.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Twit, This Week in Tech, episode 693, recorded Sunday, November 18th, 2018. Big Boy Easy Bake Oven. This Week in Tech is brought to you by Masterclass, online classes taught by the world's greatest minds. Visit masterclass.com/twit to unlock access to every masterclass for one low annual price. And by Rocket Mortgage from Quicken Loans, introducing Rate Shield Approval. If you're in the market to buy a home, Rate Shield Approval locks up your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. It's a real game changer. Learn more and get started at rocketmortgage.com/twit2. And by WordPress. Reach more customers when you build your business website on WordPress.com. Plans start at just $4 a month and get 15% off any new plan at WordPress.com/twit. And by CashFly. Make this the last month your CDN bill gives you a headache. Join the thousands of others who trust CashFly's reliable network. And just for Twit listeners, received up to $2,000 in credit when you switch to CashFly before January 1st. Learn more and get a complimentary quote at twit.cashfly.com. It's time for Twit This Week in Tech, the show where we cover the week's tech news with the best tech journalists I can round up on short notice. And, no, just kidding. With the best tech journalists in the business, like this guy right here, Larry Magid, has been doing it longer than anybody. CBS News Radio, connectsafely.org, and an old friend, a good, dear friend, not old friend. Hello, Larry. Good to see you.
Old, too. Gray hair, you notice.
Back from his tour of Europe, you visited the House of Lords?
I did. I visited the House. I had lunch at the House of Lords. I have a friend who's in the House of Lords. It's a lifetime position, so as long as she's alive, I'll have a friend at the House of Lords.
Nice.
And then we went over to Brussels to do some meeting with the European Commission, down to Luxembourg, also for European Commission, then off to Paris for the Internet Governance Forum and also GovTech. It was Tech Week in Paris, along with, literally hours after Trump left, I went to a meeting that Justin Trudeau spoke at, and he is the guy, of all the people I didn't interview him, but of all the people I have been around in the tech world and policy, he probably knows more than Al Gore. And Al Gore at the time was pretty good. And then after that, Emmanuel Macron spoke at the Internet Governance Forum and basically said, there are two kinds of internets. There's the California internet, where government has nothing to do with it. It's laissez-faire. And there's the China internet, where the government controls it. And Macron wants the internet to be somewhere between the California internet and the China internet.
That's an interesting thought.
With government in control or government involvement.
I don't think you can. I think you it's one or the other. I don't know.
Tim Cook came out, I think tonight on Axios, is going to say, he acknowledges that regulation is coming. So I think that Macron is probably right.
Yeah.
And Cook agrees.
Cook is, I think, one of the first people to say we have two internets. Well, very interesting. Welcome. And I will introduce the rest of the panel before we get into the heavy conversation.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting topic. Georgia Dow is also here from imore.com. It's always a thrill. Hello, Georgia. She's senior editor over there at Georgia Dow. She's also, and we need her more than ever, a psychotherapist who creates great videos about reducing anxiety, sleeping better, raising your kids at anxiety-videos.com. Hello, Georgia.
Hello. We have two new videos, actually. So
what are they about?
We have, we're starting the Master Series, which is more for businesses and getting ahead and just leading a better life. So we have one on emotional intelligence, and that's about
I like that.
What do your emotions mean? What do other people's emotions mean? What is this social engineering? Why do people want certain things? And then we have another one for conflict. And that one's on conflict resolution. So how can you get into a conflict with someone and actually make it a win-win, or even make your relationship better because you had a disagreement with someone? So it's just kind of how to not get stuck in being defensive or reactive and how you can deal with it.
And you do these with Sandra Reich,
Yeah, I do.
who is also a therapist, and you're both at the Montreal Center for Anxiety and Depression. So that's anxiety dash.
You make house calls?
Yeah, really.
We need you around here.
We need
I'm
you.
in Silicon Valley.
Billionaire.
Yeah,
oh my
really.
gosh. Yeah.
Hey, that's Brianna Wu, candidate for Congress in the Massachusetts 8th District. It still says that as your lower third. Are we going to leave that up?
I think we should.
So Brianna was primaried out
That's a true story.
by her Democratic opponent, who did, in fact, win his seat back in Congress. He was the incumbent. But you say you're not giving up.
Nope. I got 17,000. I never give up, Georgia. That's right. No, we got over 17,000 votes. That is amazing for a first-time candidate. We had a very small team, and I always, I said from the beginning, when I started running, that I was probably going to have to run twice. You have a very, very small chance of winning your first time. And my goal was always, be an engineer, get all my mistakes out of the way, figure out how to do this. And, we're already gearing up for 2020. It's amazing how much more I know at this point. I know how to file FEC reports. I know how leaders in every single town. I know how to give a speech. I know how to raise money. I know leaders in every single part of my district. So, I'm in it 2020 to absolutely win.
Keep them talking about tech.
I have to say how brave that is, because, of course, Brianna was also a very well-known victim of Gamergate. I know you don't particularly want to talk about that, but for you to stay in the public eye when probably every bone in your body said, let's just hide, shows how much guts you have. And so you already filed for 2020?
We already did. We're already listed with the FEC. And one of the things, Leo, I was talking to you about this before the show. One of the mistakes I made is I hired people like I did in my game studio. We hired a lot of people straight out of college and gave them jobs, and we all figured out how to make software together. And that works well in engineering because you're developing something new every single time. But with politics, this is one of those fields that there's innovation, but some of the basics, you just can't disrupt your way around. You've got to shake hands, you've got to meet people. So
Kiss
this time
babies,
around, you've got to get off the computer out into the real world. Yeah. So one of the lessons I've learned is you've got to hire people with experience, and that's exactly what we've done this time around. Well,
and I was talking before the show about this, but I have experience with friends who've run for office, and you're exactly right. The first time you're unknown. An unknown quantity. The second time you're known, and name recognition is sadly a huge part of why people win. I was talking to somebody about the Petaluma mayoral race, and she said she was going to vote for one of the candidates. I said, why? She said, because she has the most lawn signs. And, and honestly, I don't think that's an outlier.
No.
It really, name recognition is a lot of it. So good. I'm glad to hear you're not giving up. You're going to continue to run. Now, we have Brianna Wu 2018.com as the website. That's gone.
It's still up.
Oh, it is.
We finally got Brianna Wu for Congress, so we're actually building that right now. Right. Last time around, we went with the Disruptor Nation Builder, and we're going to work with the tried and true NGP van this time. So someone on my team is migrating that currently.
Good. Have you thought about starting out with a reality show? Maybe where people apply for jobs and you say you're fired.
No.
Did that help?
It worked for some, but I think that's
worked for one guy.
You can't keep going back to the well. You gotta something new.
I don't think that would work. I will say this, and this is in all seriousness, Leo, and hold me to this standard. I have talked to really high quality documentary journalists, and one of the things I've committed to is, if I am fortunate enough to win in 2020, I want to bring people in and kind of show the American people the sausage. What happens if you call up the House Minority and Majority Leader and try to get bills passed? What's really going on in Washington? And I want to open things up, especially on the technology subcommittee.
I love it. Openness in government is a rare and valuable thing and much needed. I agree.
I agree.
Yeah. By the way, we should mention that Georgia Dow's president is Justin Trudeau.
It was awesome.
Congratulations, Georgia.
Yeah, well done. Bravo.
You don't have any room in your country? You don't have any walls?
No, stop that. Now stop
There's
it.
tons of room in Canada.
Stay here. We need you here.
So
we need you here.
It's really cold.
Yeah.
That's
it's too
true.
cold. Yeah, because you don't have fires, and pretty much all of California is now.
That's true.
Actually, you had fires in BC a couple of years ago, right, or last year?
We do, but they're not what you're going through right now. So
you know what? There's no historic precedent for what's happening right now in California.
Right.
It's devastating.
Yep.
And you're not far from it, Leo. How far are you? Are you like heavy in the smoke?
It's pretty
Heavier
bad.
than San Francisco?
Smoke's bad. It is. So unhealthful levels are over 200. It's just under 200 right now, but it has been over 200 for the last couple of days. So we're inside with our molecule air purifier running full bore, and we have a couple at home. I turned them all the way up, and just try to stay inside. And it's tough. I wasn't paying too much attention to it. I thought, I'm strong, I'm robust. And on Thursday, we were putting up the Christmas lights, and I had just got an electric bike, so I went on a bike ride. None of this with a mask. I woke up Friday morning. I thought I'd smoked a carton of cigarettes. I was coughing, and it was terrible. And I realized, no, I am not immune. And when the levels get that high, everybody's health is impacted. So
it's a big deal. Yeah,
that's minor compared to the people lost their homes,
living there,
lost
their lives.
Their towns, people lost their lives, and we don't know how many, but 1,000 people are missing. That is a terrifying number. So
I mean, I was in Mississippi for Katrina, and about 1,800 people died for that. Yeah. So you think about at just this point, it's already 1,000. It's really scary.
Terrifying.
But that's just our little corner of the world. There's sadness all over. So we're going to focus on the good, like Facebook.
Let's be positive.
Facebook. Now, this article in the New York Times, Delay, Deny, and Deflect, How Facebook's Leaders Fought Through Crisis, came out I think it was on Wednesday. And it is one of those stories by, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 New York Times reporters. They say 50 sources, very well sourced. It's one of those stories where it's inside the boardroom, inside the offices. So I always am a little nervous when I read that kind of story. Any story that has the lead, Sheryl Sandberg was seething. Inside Facebook's Menlo Park, California headquarters, top executives gathered in the glass-walled conference room at founder Mark Zuckerberg, et cetera, et cetera. I'm always a little skeptical about articles like that. And indeed, Facebook has said that many points in this article it got wrong. But I get the sense that the general thrust of it is not wrong, which is that Facebook went on a public relations offensive after the 2016 election, and even to the point where they hired a fairly sketchy company, which they have, by the way, since let go, that attempted to blame George Soros.
Unbelievable.
It's Definers Public Affairs. Facebook says now, we did use them, but we didn't know what they did or would do, and we have fired them since. But this is very much the Facebook playbook, which is, slash and burn and apologize later.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much I credit. I'll be honest with you. I abandoned Facebook months ago in August.
You stayed away, Leo?
Yeah. Well,
good for you.
Yes and no. Okay, so this is one of the challenges of being a tech journalist is it is the story. I didn't kill my account. I deactivated it. And I had to reactivate it to buy, I'm embarrassed to say, a Facebook portal.
Yeah.
You bought one?
Yeah, I got 2 of them. They're coming. Facebook charged my card. At first I looked and I said, oh, good. Something went wrong. They didn't. But no, they charged my card. So I will have to have a Facebook presence, and I just gave them some hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, they're not cheap.
But but I feel like I don't know. At first I thought we should review it, so I bought it because that's our job. Then I thought, nobody's going to buy this.
Right.
Then I saw that Android Central review, which said it's my favorite way to voice chat. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody in the chat room says I should move. I should move before they deliver them.
But he's already given them money, so
yeah, they already have my
if
money.
You review it, it doesn't.
They want Leah's data. They want to be staring at Leah's house.
And
they can follow you around the house. As you walk around the house. That's kind of creepy, actually.
So I have some thoughts on this. One of the things that really struck me in this piece is, I don't know Sheryl Sandberg personally, but she's certainly friendly with a lot of people that I know. Yeah. Like if you're a woman in tech, you've got connections to Sheryl Sandberg one way or another. And I was so disappointed with her role in this. And one of my main takeaways is, Sheryl Sandberg is someone really associated with Democratic politics, associated with my party. But here she is going out and hiring a really sketchy right-wing firm to attack critics of Facebook with what I think most of us would agree are anti-Semitic attacks. And I really think it speaks to a problem I've seen in the Valley where some people, there's almost a perception that like if you're on Team Democrat, like you're fine and that's the end of the story. And I think like with Sheryl Sandberg, this is really why you have to give more scrutiny than that. Does that make sense to you? Just because you're a Democrat and you write a book about women in tech, it doesn't mean you're fighting for the right things. No, and I really think this article shows that. Yeah.
The part of the problem we have in this country is treating politics like team sports.
Yep.
That you're on, that's my team, right or wrong. And I have to tell you right now, even though the Democrats control the House, if they make it all about stopping Donald Trump instead of making good policy, there's a lot to do in this country.
Absolutely.
That they will be just as bad as the other guys. And it isn't my team right or wrong. There's a lot of work to be done, and the work needs to be done. And I honestly think the electorate feels the same way. It would be a huge mistake at this point.
So back to Sheryl.
Yeah, I know Sheryl.
Yeah. I do know her quite well, and she and I I haven't talked to her about this particular New York Times article, but we correspond back and forth. And I'm on Facebook Safety Advisory Board, so in a way I'm a little bit close to the company. And what I can say, and there's some things I can't say, but what I can't say is that they're conflicted. There are within the company different forces and around a lot of issues. And there's just a great deal of conflict as to what is right and what isn't. I was actually in Europe when this article came out, so I didn't focus on it. But on other issues, they often actually try to do the right thing but wind up screwing it up. And again, I can't say that's true here, but it wouldn't surprise me if somebody didn't properly vet this PR agency. I mean, I'm not getting Zuckerberg and Sandberg off the hook, but it wouldn't surprise me if they just didn't know what was going on.
We've seen a number of articles about Facebook employees having lost. Let me give you the headline from the Business Insider. Facebook employees react to the latest scandal. Why does our company... now I've got an ad on top of it. I guess Business Insider has just put up a fence, a paywall. Sorry, Business Insider. I guess I won't be reading that headline. Why does our company seem to lack a moral compass is what it said. Go ahead, Georgia.
Yeah, I think that there's just a huge need for some radical responsibility. When she said that she didn't know what was happening in the company, being unaware does not mean you're not responsible. So if I was unaware that my child threw a ball in the neighbor's window and broke it, it doesn't mean that I'm not responsible for the damage of which that does. So then if I continue to be unaware, if my child keeps on breaking windows for, let's say 3 years, then they'd call me negligent or willfully unaware. And call social services. And then when people find out that I was actually getting paid because I own a window repair shop and getting sums of money, millions of dollars.
This is a very apt analogy.
Maybe there's more purposeful behavior in the fact that I closed my eyes and didn't really know what my kids were up to.
Wasn't Sandberg supposed to be adult supervision for Mark Zuckerberg?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I think that they both, if you run a company, you are responsible for what your company does. And you saying that I don't know means either you should not be heading the company, but either way, you should still pay the price and make sure that you take care of it as quickly as possible. But you can't wait for 3 years and then say, you know what? I really did try to take a lot of responsibility to make sure that happened. And they didn't really even fix the problem
I think that's the problem, is that the excuse is wearing thin. I think you know.
The problems continue. You're right. The problems continue. And even the whole Cambridge Analytica stuff, that they should have known that. In fact, when they announced originally that they were going to have an app economy, I happened to be at that press conference and I asked Zuckerberg, what are you going to do when some of these apps start violating your policies? And he had no answer for that. And it was obvious. There was no reason why he had to wait for that crisis. He could have figured that out years before it happened.
Yeah. This is what really gives me a lot of pause here. I agree with you. At first, I was like, how could they not know that? But my friend Eileen Carey, she's actually done this kind of work professionally before. She's a really good friend, and she told me, and this is on Twitter, anyone can see her thread, that this kind of keeping the CEO and the person that hired you out of the loop, that is very much by design. That is how you do it, so your fingerprints are quote unquote clean. So to me,
plausible,
I don't think that really.
But that's still nefarious, Bree, right?
Oh,
and
it's
not like they gave back the money.
Right.
They didn't say, you know what, this was wrong. So now we're going to give back the money and try to, use that money that we got from ill-gotten gains to be able to do something good with it. They're like, you know what, we're going to keep the money. That's all good. And we're going to say, I'm sorry. And unfortunately, it's true. We have very short attention spans. We will grab our pitchforks and run out there until the pitchfork gets too heavy or there's something else that we need to pitchfork. And so I think that's what they were hoping for, is that people would end up forgetting and then going back to Facebook. And if you look at Facebook's numbers, it's been dwindling, but it isn't the amount of people that have left Facebook that really it should be if they understood what was happening. And that makes me feel kind of bitter and angry.
Let me read you, since you didn't follow this, Larry, so closely when you were in Europe, but let me read to you from the Thursday article in the New York Times about this firm, Definers Public Affairs. They are apparently an opposition research firm. They were hired in the days before Sandberg was to testify to Congress back in September. And they were hired pretty apparently to target the 15 members of the Senate Intelligence Committee that were going to question her. In one document circulated to reporters, Definers tallied what software the 15 members of the Intelligence Committee used to track visitors to their Senate websites. This was given to the press as a way to undermine these senators. Another document detailed how much each senator spent on Facebook ads, how much they'd received in campaign donations from Facebook or other big tech companies. There's no way Sandberg did not know who they were hiring and what they were going to do. This is what they do. This is what Definers does. And for Facebook and Sandberg now to apologize and say, that we didn't know and we fired them, strikes me as disingenuous.
They're just really worried about getting regulated. They're worried about having regulations come in, and they're worried about people deleting Facebook because that'll deal with their bottom line.
Mark Zuckerberg's quote in the Times after they fired the Definers, I understand that a lot of DC-type firms might do this kind of work. When I learned about it, I decided we don't want to be doing it. I'm sorry. I mean, maybe he's sincere.
I don't know if he can be sincere.
I am very comfortable with severing all ties with Facebook. We know that 44% of people 18 to 25 in the United States now have deleted Facebook from their phone. There's very much, I think, a backlash from young people. Older people, I think, I don't think many people love Facebook, but I think older people are more reluctant to delete it because that's how they stay in touch with distant friends and family.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's nothing to replace it.
But then people just go on Instagram. I mean, this is the exact same thing that we did with
we have to get all of everyone onto like Snapchat or something.
I don't think that's any better. You know what? Delete all social networks now. They're not good for us.
No, they're horrible for us. They don't make us feel better. They don't make us feel happy. But they do serve a purpose of connecting people where we couldn't before. I think that, it's just Facebook is where everyone is, and because like less and less will be there, but until that actually happens.
But where else could I have shown a picture of me in front of the Eiffel Tower just to say I'm in Paris and you're not? I mean,
exactly my point, and you made me feel like crap.
Larry,
exactly.
Like you want strangers to be like, good for you for being on the Eiffel Tower, then I get Facebook's place. But if you want to just send it to your friends and family, the people that actually love you, like genuinely love you.
Sent postcards.
Nobody loves
on our last trip, I sent postcards to make my friends and family feel bad. Yeah. Can you get me the stack of postcards? By the way, I sent too many postcards.
Wow.
But I'm going to do that from now on. And that was because I had killed Instagram and I wanted to share my trip with my friends.
Did you bring a Polaroid camera or something? You just bought postcards along the way?
No. I used a service, an Apple service, a photo card from Bill Atkinson, and I just picked a picture every day, way too many, every day that I took, and then you put a postcard, and you can you don't actually mail it. He mails it from Palo Alto, and so it gets there
you don't
quickly.
Actually mail it.
Oh my gosh.
No, you put a fake stamp on it, and then the service, you pay for the service. I wrote little blurbs. You pay for the service. It's like $1.50. And he mails it from Palo Alto, Bill Atkinson, the guy who...
But you have to know people's address. How do you know people's mailing address?
I know.
Wow, you don't
so
buy
that's why
mailing
nobody who
address?
listens to the
You look
show
on
got
Facebook.
one of these. I don't know your address. But I did... My daughter said, Dad, 2 tips. Send fewer cards and make them funnier.
How many cards did you send?
17. Okay, that was a lot. She said send fewer, yeah. It was a little too many. But
oh my goodness.
It satisfied my urge to rub my family's nose in it. I honestly think, and the other thing I did is I kind of put more stuff on my blog because I wanted, so that way if people really want to know, they go to my site and they can see stuff. I don't want to give Facebook any money, but I don't want to give Snapchat any either. I don't want to give any of these guys anything.
It doesn't actually, like people's life, like happiness in life does not go down if you leave Facebook or any other set of social media. You actually feel better and more at peace because all those lies that kind of go around, everyone looks great and feels great and is doing amazing things. So I'm actually almost done with Twitter. And like, that's my last hold on social media. Like I tweet like only like every, I don't know, once in a while, like a little tiny bit. And it's wonderful. Not even to think that I have to go and check.
I know.
It's great.
Yeah.
You know what? I still have it. I killed my Twitter account or deactivated. I didn't kill it. Yeah. But I killed Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr. But I did.
And did you delete all of your history for Twitter as well?
I did. Well, but the service I used only went back like 5 years. there's stuff
That's
from
still
like,
pretty good.
But it
That's
was
pretty
good. It's like anything's there is really, really old. And eventually I'll reactivate it, delete the rest. But I just don't want to deal with it at all. But what I did do is I had an account where I was just posting links, and I kept that alive, and I deleted anything that wasn't news. I didn't follow anybody that's not just a news organization. And if I do feel like I need to have, if something big happens, I need to be able to go and see what they're saying about it on Twitter, and that's more for my job than my personal life. But I rarely check it. Rarely.
But Leah, that's where I think, first of all, like for a personal decision, anyone that decides to leave Twitter and Facebook, more power to you. It's a great decision. Like Georgia said, these sites are not great for you. But, maybe, Leo, you're such a bastion in the tech industry. You can probably leave Twitter and it's not going to affect you as much. But if someone's getting started today in the tech industry, you've got to be on these sites to network. You've got to be on Facebook meeting people. You've got to be on Twitter meeting people. Really? And I think it's really hard to not do that.
As a candidate, you probably do too, right?
I do. I have to run ads on Facebook. I hate it.
I fully get,
and my campaign sat down and had a really hard talk with me for 2020 after having that come to Jesus meeting about what went well and what went wrong. We have to spend more time on Facebook because 80% of people in our district have accounts there. And I put in a hate. Go ahead. No, I was just going to say I hate that I'm part of the problem because I'm feeding this monster. I'm doing it to specifically regulate Facebook, which is what I'm going to do. But, I also want to say what really troubled me is this story troubled me. But what troubled me a lot more Leo, was Mike Isaac's story that came out today talking about Mark Zuckerberg's response to the company after this news broke. And it's a short article. I invite anyone on Twitch to read it. And the points of it are really frustrating. It is basically Zuckerberg going on telling his employees that Facebook is the real victim here. It is emphasizing that they are going to fire anyone that talks to the press. It says that Facebook thinks they should just lay their heads down low and wait until things to blow over and people to go chase another car. They don't really acknowledge doing harm to our democracy. And their only real concern about this story is that some of their employees care. It's affecting their morale. And Georgia, I'd love to know what you think, but to me, this feels like this is a company that is not incentivized to change their behavior. And I think it's not realistic to expect anything to change.
I think that you're absolutely right. I don't think that it is in their best interest to change. I don't think that they want to. I think that they're hoping that it will blow over. The last time that for the Cambridge Analytica, they ended up spending a lot of money to donate to different politicians in hopes that they get away with not having to be regulated and people looking over what they're doing. And we need that. We need people to look over these companies to make sure that they're still taking care of the people, because in the end, like, I understand Facebook's a company, they want to make money. And Zuckerberg is not known for being the most empathic and thoughtful with the way that he deals with his responses and the people that are there, to say the least of that. And so without regulation, and that's what they don't want, that's what they need.
You know, You're right about Zuckerberg, but I know people in Facebook, and maybe that's what he's talking about. I know folks at Facebook, much lower down the food chain, who really do think about these issues and are really bothered by these issues. And
I think if you work at Facebook today, I would say this to anybody who listens who currently works at Facebook: you should be looking for another job. Yeah. You should not be working at Facebook. You should not be supporting this network. Maybe Brianna has to, others have to, because it's the only place they can meet family and friends, the only way they can run for Congress. But you, as an employee of Facebook, are doing the devil's work. You're smart enough, you're good enough to work somewhere ethical. You should do it.
I agree.
And Larry, I agree with you. There are definitely a lot of people. I know people that work at Facebook that are caring, thoughtful people. But that's what he's doing. He's taking the people that have voiced that they're upset, and instead of fixing the problem, he's saying, well, you better not get caught saying anything. I better not find out, because they'll be held to pay for it. And so it's just putting pressure on people that are just trying to make a living and do it in a way that they can feel good about it.
And George, I want to add something on to that. You know, it's one thing if Apple is firing someone for talking about iPhone and leaking an iPhone. As far as I see it, that is Apple's prerogative. But Facebook is shipping the information that we need to run our democracy. This is hand in hand with government. It's hand in hand with news. And there needs to be public accountability. So I really feel like it's a different use case for Facebook to just be threatening anyone that talks to the New York Times, when the New York Times is reporting things that they're doing that are so harmful for our democracy. Leo, I completely agree with what you said. This is gut check time. This is time for everyone that looks at Facebook to look in the mirror and to ask themselves who they are. What are you supporting? What are you building? What are you empowering? Is this good for the world? And in Silicon Valley, you can go get a job in 5 seconds. This is not going to stop until people that work there choose to stop working there.
Did you read Facebook's public response to the New York Times article? It was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I did.
A lot of it is just simply no. They got it wrong. They actually didn't even say they got it wrong factually. In many cases, they just shaded it wrong or interpreted it wrong. This one though, I want somebody to explain this 0.5 Android. Tim Cook has consistently criticized our business model, and Mark has been equally clear he disagrees. So there's been no need to employ anyone else to do this for us, and we've long encouraged our employees and executives to use Android because it is the most popular operating system in the world.
Like Donald Trump would say.
I don't understand what point are they making there?
Makes no sense.
I don't know.
Not to mention that a lot of the Facebook employees I know still have iPhones.
Are they saying don't use Apple because we don't like Tim Cook and he's our chief critic? And by the way, since Tim Cook we don't need to hire anybody with a conscience at our company? What the hell is this statement?
Yeah.
It's just bizarre.
But I will say, on the sex trafficking side, they have done a good job. I mean, that's the area where I work.
Wait a minute. You better explain that.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Slow down, buddy.
Yeah. So the area that I work with Facebook on their safety advisory board is around child safety.
Yes.
And in that area, I think they have worked really hard. Now, I'm not saying they're perfect, but they have done a lot to employ what's called photo DNA and other technologies to try to cut back on child sex trafficking. So,
this is... I'm not at all thinking that Facebook has an easy job because everybody, 1.5 billion, maybe 2 billion now people use Facebook. That's almost impossible to edit and control. You're a platform, I do not envy them. I think in a way the difficulties they face are in the nature of their success. And I'd say the same thing about Twitter. I also think these are intractable problems. You're never going to get all terrorists, all sex trafficking, all anything off Facebook. It's too big of a challenge. Same thing with Twitter. So I don't know what the answer is.
And the hate speech is a real challenge because they're kind of up against. They're also up against free speech issues and trying to keep the ADL happy on one side and the ACLU happy on the other, and trying to balance that one is difficult. So, again, I'm not deeply ingrained in this current controversy. I'm not here to defend Facebook at all. But I will say in the little area that I work, which is the child safety area, I think they have made some progress. So that's about as far as I can go.
Well, and that's an area firsthand about.
Well,
so, and I admire for them. It'd be my guess that, basically they have the Aegean stables here. And there's no Hercules to clean these out. You have literally an insurmountable problem that is based on what you're doing and the success of what you're doing. And it would be my guess that Facebook knows this. They know that's not fixable. So what they've chosen is, look, we're going to do the best we can. We're going to defend what we're doing as best we can, and we're going to keep on doing what we're doing because that's the business. Yeah. And by the way, that attitude would explain everything.
The only thing that bothers me about that, Leo, is that it's kind of like that too large to fail argument.
Oh, yeah.
Like you which I do understand, but what you're saying is that, well, you know what, we have too many people to be able to control it. And then it just makes me want to say, well, then have a smaller pool of people that are on Facebook.
Not going to happen.
If you have a party, it won't, unless legislation comes down to say that, you know what, you're going to have to pay money towards anyone that's, whatever, inciting violence or harassment or whatever it might be. But, you have a party and it's too big to control that, the violence that happens at your party. Have a smaller party. And if not, pay the price for the people that then have to clean up the mess.
Yeah. No, I think you're dead on. And, I thought Tim Cook, he said this so perfectly the other day. In fact, the speech I give on this, I pretty much, we look at his points there because it was so well said. I am personally not a pro-regulation kind of person when it comes to technology because I don't think Washington can keep up with the technology industry. But the fact is here, Facebook really plays such a huge role in our democracy. There was Russian interference with our election. There's consistent misinformation. We've had teenagers go and commit suicide after bullying that they've gotten on this platform. They are putting media organizations out of business. They've lied about the number of video views that things have gotten, like causing industries to pivot to video. And then, like journalists lose their jobs over the decisions Facebook makes. This is a company that impacts all of us in huge ways. And the truth is, this is our country, and we can regulate the things that operate here, like Facebook. Yeah. And if we don't get this under control, I know this is a strong statement, but I genuinely believe Facebook, as it is currently run, is the biggest threat to democracy in America. Yeah.
I would say there's three paths here. There's Facebook could attempt to prevent all of this, and that I think is impossible because it's a judgment call. Facebook could be forced to do that, and still impossible. Facebook could dissolve, disband, change its business model, like Georgia says. Maybe be a small little boutique-y kind of social network. That's not going to happen. So given that none of those are in any way viable, Facebook is choosing the only option it has, which is just as fast as you can appease government, because we can't, even if they regulate us, we can't do it. Pretend we're trying to control all this stuff. Say all the right things whenever possible. But meanwhile, our business has to continue. So no business is going to put a nail in its own coffin.
Leo, a few months ago, Facebook made a change in the algorithm so that what you see on your feed today is going to be more the friends that you interact with and less the media organizations. Well, actually, I think it worked in a negative way. I'm actually finding Facebook more boring because every time I log in, I see the same people, sometimes the same posts that I saw yesterday.
By the way, they knew it would be more boring. That's why they optimized it the other way. They know exactly what gets your clicks and your engagement, and they were doing that.
Well, that's my point, is that to some extent, by making it, quote, safer, they've actually made it less interesting. And I don't know what the happy medium is or the solution is, but the fact is that people want to yell at each other. People, it's not, Facebook didn't create trolls. Facebook didn't create
No, they just weaponized them.
They enabled people to weaponize them. Yep. And believe me, there are plenty of people who are. And I'm not, they're responsible.
If my thesis is correct, Larry, Facebook did what it did under pressure from government and users. They're going to do it until people look away, and they're going to go right back to the way that works the best for them, gets the most engagement, because that's their business model. And this is my point, is Facebook is going to deflect, deny, agree, do whatever it can to keep people from regulating it, from leaving. But ultimately, they know what works, and they're going to keep doing what works.
And remember, they're also diversifying. There are more and more people are on Instagram, on WhatsApp, and so the service, what they call the blue service, Facebook, that could actually dwindle at some point and not necessarily destroy the company.
Yeah.
Because they've got all
they just want real estate on your phone.
Well, the phone is what it's all about, sure.
Or maybe this Portal. Russell Holly, who I love and respect, said Portal from Facebook, my favorite new way to video chat.
Wow.
This is where Facebook's really good. They're good at what they do. I'm not saying they're not good at what they do.
I haven't gotten mine yet, but I'm not that excited about it.
I'll tell you what, I'm glad to hear you have one so I can call you.
Well, I will have one when it comes out.
I need to call you.
You will not be calling me, Leo. I'm sorry to
No, you're not going to put a camera that follows you around in your house?
I will. I am not going to be.
I think your constituents deserve that. Yeah,
it doesn't. I should say it doesn't follow you around, but it's a large enough. This is my guess, because the Mevo, which is a Facebook live streaming device from Livestream, does the same thing. It's a 4K sensor, but that means that they have essentially 4 high def locations, and so they can zoom in.
Right.
To
you can walk around the room, and you will continue to be in focus.
It's a wide angle. As long as they can see everything in the room, they can zoom to that part of the room.
The idea is
camera doesn't move.
If your grandma watching your 4-year-old walking around the room, you'll see that kid as they walk around. I'm not exactly. I don't think it's a I think they do it with software.
Yes, but it's a 4K camera that they can zoom in to a higher resolution.
Right.
And it's not on until you turn it on.
Well, you got a camera and a mic on it. We don't know if it's on.
I think there's a lens cover.
Yeah, they say this is their privacy thing. It's in the materials. We have a clip you can cover the camera with.
Yeah,
the microphone's still on, but we can cover the camera.
Well,
and nobody's gonna. By the way, they're gonna. You're gonna lose that clip within an hour, right? Again, still masking tape will work, but
yeah. I have actually a Band-Aid over my webcam.
That's
on
ugly.
My laptop. A little round Band-Aid.
So
it's small. It's just a round one.
Yeah.
It's the beige
one of those a dot. Yeah.
One of those beige Band-Aid dot. A dot. Yeah. It works. Yeah. Except for it kind of makes Windows Hello doesn't work if you can't.
I don't want to be, and I sound like I am the that guy who hates Facebook. But I do agree with you. It is a threat to our own psychological well-being and to our democracy.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the answer is. It ain't going away. And you may, Brianna, God willing, you're going to get in Congress in 2020 along with a whole bunch of other people who feel the same way, and you're going to pass stringent privacy and laws, and it ain't going to change a thing because it's a global operation.
Well, with the Europeans, they passed stringent. They passed the GDPR.
Oh, yeah. Nobody uses Facebook in Europe, right?
Make a difference.
I use it.
It's not that you expect people to stop using it. It's that the European privacy laws have undoubtedly affected the information that Facebook can collect and how they can sell it.
Yeah, they have.
No one's trying to destroy Facebook. We just want them to do things in a way they're less destructive to the rest of us.
You think you can make Facebook a safe and healthy place?
No, I don't. But I do think we can make it. I think there are two factors here. The fact that they bought Instagram really deeply concerns me. It's the exact same playbook that Microsoft used in the 90s. And, Leo, you and I are both old enough. We've seen tech giants come and go. We saw IBM buy Red Hat, last week. IBM was what they wrote about in 2001. Like that was the villain, HAL 9000.
1984, right?
Right.
Coca-Cola bought
2000. Right.
The Coca-Cola buys water companies and juice companies.
So what worries me about Facebook, I'm sure Facebook is going to eventually fall because the exact instant there's a competitor I can go buy to move off of it, and I think other people will too. But what concerns me is the anti-competitive behavior. At the start of the show, Leo, you were talking about how younger people tend to not be on Facebook. You're right, because they're on Instagram. That's a much higher percentage of younger people. Facebook, there was another very promising social media startup that my friend Taylor over at The Atlantic wrote about that basically loops video. Facebook literally just copied it and put it right out. So I don't worry about people moving from Facebook. What I do worry about is Facebook continuing their anti-competitive tactics in the social media space that will be impossible to escape from basically leaders with this kind of fundamentally morally broken compass.
It is such an interesting conversation, and I just don't know what the answer is. And I should really, if you're going to be fair, there's all sorts of amazing success stories that come straight out of social media, including Facebook and Twitter. And there's a lot of things very positive, very good, as well as very bad, because it's like life. And so you can't be all tarred with the same brush. However, I do feel it's a little bit of a problem. We got to figure this out, right? We all agree on that. Yep. Let's take a break. Brianna Wu is with us. You know what? We went to your website, and they've taken it down.
They did over at Nation Builder.
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah, because it's over.
So it's Brianna Wu for Congress right now. I could talk a lot about Nation Builder, but I won't on your show.
We're moving on.
Yes. We're moving over. So this is funny. Gamergate, when I first announced it, they got Brianna Wu for Congress, and they registered it before I could. Oh, my
God, those jerks.
But they didn't do it for another year, so I have control of that domain name.
Fortunately,
have you registered Brianna Brew for Senate, Brianna Brew for President? Just
you better
in case,
get all the rest.
Better get all of those.
Let's grab them all now.
Now's the time.
We're working
for Queen or whatever. Emperor.
Larry Magid's also here. He's got a website, a number of them, including connectsafely.org. And what is it? Larry's Place?
Larry'sWorld.com.
Larry's World.
Larry's World. Larry's World. Yeah.
Don't go to Larry's Place. That's another one.
You don't want to go to my place.
No, please.
He doesn't want you to go to his place.
I don't publish my address. I don't even want your postcards, Leo.
Thank you. I'll just put them on my I'll put them on my blog for you, Larry.
That'll work.
Pull them instead of pushing them. And Georgia Dow, she is at anxiety-videos.com, and of course, senior editor at imore.com. Our show today brought to you by the best present you're ever gonna give friends, family, Masterclass, maybe yourself. Give this to yourself. Masterclass, I don't know how they did it, got the biggest names in the world to teach classes on their disciplines. Imagine learning tennis from Serena Williams, basketball from Steph Curry, chess from Garry Kasparov, poker from Daniel Negreanu, Helen Mirren teaching acting. My friend Steve Martin teaches you how to be funny. I mean, this is amazing. Frank Gehry on architecture. Annie Leibovitz on photography. Diane von Furstenberg on fashion. And incidentally, this isn't like, oh, he does a 15-minute. These are classes that are full, rich, beautifully shot. Actually, I'm going to go into my account because I can show you some of the classes that I'm paying attention to. How about this one? Samuel L. Jackson. I love this one. Teaching acting. One of the things he does in this, and so let's close this out, but just so you can see, look how many lessons it is. This is 21 lessons. There's a class workbook. He does a Q&A. He has office hours. This is a real class. One of the things he does, which is fantastic, breaking down a script. They take a script from Pulp Fiction. They take that scene in the restaurant from Pulp Fiction. Here, let me turn the audio off. And he takes acting students and he literally goes through it with them and talks about you can't pay for this. This is like mind-bogglingly good. It's so well shot. It's so well done that you're going to put it on the big screen and just enjoy it like a documentary. If it's, cooking from the best chefs in the world, this is so amazing. I can't sell you hard enough on this. I was going to give it to my son for Christmas, and he said I already got it for myself, which is kind of a bummer. He's an aspiring chef, and it has really great cooking stuff. Gordon Ramsay has a class. Alice Waters, Wolfgang Puck. So, you're learning cooking from the best chefs in the world. Martin Scorsese teaching film directing. David Mamet teaching playwriting. Oh my God. You want to learn how to lay down beats? Deadmau5 as a class. I'm making music. I love this, and I just want you to go. Now, we've got, of course, as always, a very good deal for you. If you go to masterclass.com/twit, unlock access to every masterclass for a year. That is one of the things I think is really important. When I first went there, I bought one, and I thought, oh, wait a minute, I want that. Oh, you're going to want them all, so unlock them all. 35 world-class masters, and it's a very low annual price. I think you're going to like it, and what a great gift. Masterclass.com/twit. Unlimited access to Masterclass. This is, I've just solved your holiday gift giving. This is day one of Hanukkah, and you will be famous. This is so awesome. Masterclass.com/twit. What they need, though, is Brianna Wu on how to run for Congress. That would be a good one.
I was thinking they need you there for broadcasting.
Oh, they never asked.
Yeah.
That's true. Or running an ad read. You do the best ad reads. You've read it. No, but it's true. Leo, you read it. It's like you've read it for the first time, and I'm like, you've probably read it like 75 times, but you make it sound.
Can I tell you what my secret is? We only accept ads from companies that I really love. And so it's honest because you don't know how many advertisers we turn down every week because I want to be able to read each one of these with absolute sincerity. And I'll tell you the other reason, which is completely self-serving. If you subscribe to this and you hate it, they don't send email to Masterclass. They yell at me. Right? Because my friend Leo told me about it. What? If your friend told you, oh, you gotta buy a molecule air purifier so you don't breathe fire, and it was terrible, you wouldn't yell at Molecule. You'd come to your friend Leo and say, what are you talking about? This thing. Fortunately, we only accept good advertisers. Occasionally.
It's not just that. It's like you're reading about friends from WomaCon. I've heard you give this ad before, and still you make it sound like a story.
It's
so
sincere.
They should bring you on there. See?
You think I'm acting? I'm not that good an actor. Although now that I've taken the Samuel Jackson class.
I don't think that I could say it that many times and still make it sound fresh. So
What's funny because
definitely
I'm not allowed to. I don't know how it works with your broadcast affiliates. I'm not allowed to do that because CBS doesn't allow me to have any relationship with advertisers. But I guess it's a different world in the podcasting business.
No, I do this on the radio. Yeah. Are you kidding?
Right. All right. Well,
did you never listen to Paul Harvey?
Oh yeah.
For Bose.
The difference is he doesn't work for the news division. He works for the. It's a different. Depending on what. For example, even on CBS. there are people who the Charles Osgood used to work for CBS Radio.
Yeah, he did ads.
But he didn't work for CBS News.
He was the smiley man who did ads.
Yep. Yeah,
Paul Harvey did the best ads. If anybody, Paul Harvey is the. And you know where I get my inspiration? Only Larry's old enough to remember Arthur Godfrey.
Oh, Arthur Godfrey, yeah.
But he was the king of doing radio ads.
Except the only difference is that your show isn't sponsored by a single tobacco or coffee company. They were back then.
No, we do have a coffee company with no tobacco.
No, but not a single one. This isn't the Folgers hour.
Lucky Strike hour. We tried. We've been trying for years to sell naming rights to the studio.
Wow.
And now coming to you from the Lockheed Martin studios in beautiful downtown Petaluma.
I think it was Rocket or whatever.
Yeah, Rocket. Yeah. Rocketdyne. Oh, the guy right there. Coming to you from the Aerojet Rocketdyne Studios. Doesn't that sound good? He's a C-level executive there. Just talk to the boss. Say, Aerojet Rocketdyne Studios in beautiful downtown Petaluma. Man, we could have rockets. It's
that would be cool.
One of our in-studio audience members works there, and they make the engines for all the rockets, like the Apollo.
You could give away free trips to the moon as a premium.
Nice. That'd be nice. Wouldn't that be fun? The Rocketdyne Studios. That has a nice ring to it. I like it. Okay, I don't know. Let's see. Let's talk about shiny things. We've been talking about depressing things. I want to talk about shiny things. Yes. What's your favorite shiny thing these days? Brianna Wu, what are you liking these days?
I was talking to Georgia Dow. Dyson put out a new hair appliance. It's called the Dyson Airwrap, and it's breaking Instagram because every woman wants one of these things. It's just absolutely magical for doing your hair.
This is good because, so last year I tried to buy Lisa the Dyson hairdryer because
it's really good.
It's cool. And 3 times in a row, I ordered it from Dyson, and then next day got an email saying we don't trust you. We're not going to sell it to you. So I finally just gave up, and she ended up buying it for herself. But maybe there's a chance for me to redeem myself by getting an air wrap because she does do this curly thing. So this is better than a curler.
Oh, it's because it uses it. Well, it sucks up your hair. It's a vacuum. It uses this coriander effect. So they have this cool GIF, and you can see it, and your hair will just magically wrap all around the barrel, and then it blasts
Coriolis
it with air.
Effect. You're
Coriolis
saying
effect, yes.
The coriander effect has something to do with cilantro. That's different.
Sorry. Okay, yes, that's different. Look at this.
Wow.
Look at that.
Oh, that one's really.
It really does
bloody
use
cool.
extreme.
There's something weird about this guy Dyson. He's just a strange dude.
Man. I agree.
Yeah,
with that.
it is weird. Yeah.
Cool.
What is
I just liked watching your hair do that.
Is he like some sort of is he like?
He's a pro-Brexit kind of guy, and
is he really?
Was
he
pro-Brexit? Interesting opinions on
interesting
too. So.
But he's also I think he's kind of like a Tesla, right? He's like kind of this crazy inventor.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I wish his hand dryer has gotten a lot of pushback because some people, he's got the thing in bathrooms and dries your hands, and some people say,
it spreads bacteria
into the atmosphere.
Blows it all over the place. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Just why not put a big thing that blows bacteria all over the place? I know. I stopped using those. You know what I do now? This is my favorite shiny thing. I learned this in Japan because in Japan, in the men's rooms, there are no dryers. There are no paper towels. Everybody's expected to carry a handkerchief. And
you bring back the handkerchief. Yeah.
Well, this is great. No trees. All the bacteria is here. And by the way, when it dries, it's sterile anyway.
And you use it on the doorknob.
Throw it in the washing machine.
I use it on the doorknob.
Doorknobs are what scare me.
Don't have.
That's where
you just throw it in the washing. I carry 2 hankies. One for me to use.
One for damsel
whatever.
Distress.
Yes. Yeah. Larry's old enough to know why I carry the other hanky. In case a woman cries, I can offer her a perfectly folded, starched, clean. See, if somebody near me is crying, and it could be a guy, you don't want to pull this out of your pocket and say, here, blow your nose.
I always thought that was so gross, actually, yeah.
So I have a second one. I don't actually have it with me. I've already given it to a damsel in distress. And by the way, that's the other thing you do. These are cheap. Handkerchiefs are like $1. So I buy 24 at a time, and you say, please. And then when she tries to give it back, I say, no, here, keep it. I don't want your snotty.
So gallant. Oh, my goodness.
Isn't that gallant?
Like a little a little L. You need to have like an anagrams.
And my phone number.
That'd be cute.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Your phone number.
Yeah.
No. That's not, no.
I'm happily married.
No,
I would never.
No. Don't do that.
But single guys, you might want to consider that. That's just a thought.
One of my new shiny things is, this is not new. Well, this is a new laptop, but Tile, that I lose things, right?
Yeah.
And the new Tile, see if I get it to work. They're really loud now.
Oh, great.
There we go.
Jeez Louise.
And so
everybody in the listening audience thinks their Tile just went off.
Exactly. No, but their new ones are loud. So actually, and they have a bigger, like a 300-meter or 300-foot range. So I'm actually, because for the longest time I had a Tile and it never worked.
This is an example of an advertiser that we stopped doing ads for. That was Tracker. Their competition.
Oh, they have a new one coming out though.
I liked Tracker because unlike Tile, you could change the battery, and I thought it was more eco-friendly.
You can with Tile now.
So Tile's changed that, which is good.
Yeah.
And then Tracker, I felt like they were having technical difficulties. So
I'm having lunch with their CEO next week, and
would you let me know?
They're showing new products. I have no idea what they're like, but I'll let you know.
But I
have it on my dog, a Tile,
really,
because I was worried about losing my little Shih Tzu because she's very cute, but she's not that intelligent. But when we did lose her once, we couldn't find her at all with the Tile, and then when we found her, she wasn't in Bluetooth distance.
Yeah.
So she was in our backyard. She was like within 30 feet, and the Tile did not find her at all.
But also, you could deafen her if you turned on the alarm.
Right. Well, you can get this AKC tracking device for your dog, but the problem is you've got to charge the collar every 24 or 48 hours. And who's going to take the collar off their dog and put it on a charger every 48? So I actually had it on my dog for about a week, and then I realized the battery was dead. And it wasn't doing him any good, so I took it off.
I have both a Tile and a Tracker on my bag.
Yep. And your dog, but not on your dog.
It's like belt and suspenders. You can't go. Right. One of them will work.
I actually put one on my passport while I was traveling. I taped it to my passport.
They're too thick for that.
Oh, that's a good idea.
But I feel like we're getting close enough that where you could have these miniaturized and they could be in the actual fabric.
They should be embedded. They should actually be
every wallet. Yeah.
Every laptop should have them built in.
Yeah.
They should just automatically be there. Yeah. And every phone should too. Because the problem with your phone is when the phone battery dies, you can use Android or Apple have the Find My Phone apps, but if the battery's dead or the phone's out of range, you'll never find it. So it'd be nice if it had a separate Tile built in.
There used to be, I guess there still is, a laptop anti-theft thing called LoJack.
Yeah. Never tried that.
Well, don't. Because
they're not a sponsor anymore either.
No, they've been hijacked by Fancy Bear, the Russian hackers. And there's actually a LoJack virus that will phone the Kremlin instead of home.
Wow.
Yeah, you might. This story comes from last May, but in fact, I think there was additional security weakness was discovered fairly recently, and we were talking about it on Security Now. What's your shiny, Georgia Dow? I'm going to make this a part of the show from now on.
I'm really excited about this because we just got it, and I was so excited. My son actually put money towards this because he wanted us to get the high-end version. So we have a Lilo Musso ice cream maker.
Ooh.
Oh, yes.
This sounds almost as bad as the Rody-Matic.
This is the top of the line. If you want ice cream that is like, at a high-end ice cream store, this is the ice cream maker.
This would be such a bad thing for me to have.
Oh,
yeah.
it's
wow.
so
Seriously.
So
you have to eat a lot of ice cream to justify that one. That's great.
No, you're not buying this to justify the cost to save money on ice cream. That's the first step.
Okay, this is not saving you money.
No, you're not saving any money. You'd have to eat a lot of ice cream. I don't think anyone can eat that much ice cream. But it is, I like high-end ice cream, and I love the fact that after we have supper, I already have the ice. It chills itself. It's easy to clean. It mixes it so there's no ice crystals. Like the mouthfeel is like smooth, soft, amazing, and it will make gelato ice cream, French custard ice cream, sorbets, and in 30 minutes, it is done.
Georgia, you are living the life. Like she won't tell you this on the show. She got her house as she wanted a VR room in her house.
Two VR rooms.
She got a whole nother house to get a big VR room, and now you're just sitting in VR all day.
You have 3 VR rooms.
Awesome. I have 3. We have 3 spots for the VR. Actually, right now, they're all playing VR. My 2 boys and my husband are playing VR because there's a new in Rec Room. There's a new quest that they're doing, and I've been playing Carnage Chronicles. Bree, you and Frank have to play Carnage Chronicles together. It is the best game. Huge shout out. It's an alpha, and it's one of the best games I've played because you can play together. I'm the archer. My husband's like the knight. We run out there, fight bad guys, get treasure, run back. It is absolutely amazing. But like life is to have fun.
And then when you're done, you go out and you have homemade ice cream.
Oh, I have it saved. I've already eaten my ice cream for today. I had a delicious soft chocolate.
How do you not weigh 800 pounds?
And Justin Trudeau is our president.
Oh, my God.
It's not fair.
And pot is legal.
All right. Well, pot's legal here, too. But.
So I've got the next thing you guys should buy.
Ooh.
Okay.
We've talked about it on other shows. I apologize if you watch all of our shows and you already know about the Roadie-matic. This is you know what a roadie is? Those flat breads, those Indian breads.
Oh, yeah, I love those.
Yeah, I love them
you can make
too.
Your own? Wow.
You don't make your own. All you add is you put flour, water, and whatever ingredients in the hopper, and then it cranks them out.
Wow. I want one of those.
I want one too. And if I got that in the ice cream machine, I'd never come to work.
You'd have to try to make ice cream bread. Oh my goodness, look at that. It just sounds like fun.
Oh, it'll make pizza.
Roadie-matic.
Oh, God. What have I done? It's $1,000. You don't want it, Jeff. Imagine crank. See,
$9.99. Wow.
I asked my wife if we could get one for the studio because I know if I had it at home. Here's a little boy making.
Oh yes, the studio would be a good idea because people could have little tiny pizzas.
Yeah.
It looks large though. For like a
it's
unit
very
tasker,
big.
It's large.
Yeah.
I can't say anything because the ice cream maker's probably larger, but.
Yeah. So Carson's really lobbying for this.
Really? Oh, Carson. I'm with him. Carson should have this.
And the ice cream maker? We
the
already
ice cream
have
maker is
not 1, not 2,
killer.
not 3, but 4 different coffee makers. Some people want Keurig, some people want espresso, right. Some people want Illy automatic espresso, some people want just plain old brewed coffee. So we have all 4 of those. And now Roadie and ice cream. Nobody will ever leave the. Oh, wait a minute. That's a good idea.
Ice cream in the coffee.
You have it at your office or at your home?
Office.
Yeah, it's like Google, right? You just feed your employees, they never leave.
I was talking to somebody yesterday, Asha, who said it's hell working in a startup because startups, that's the whole thing. You know, you put Mountain Dew in the fridge, you put M&Ms in a jar, you keep them loaded up. Keep them high on sugar and caffeine, and they just work harder.
Right, you never let them leave.
So somebody's saying the Roadie maker is just basically a big boy easy bake oven.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
It's a really expensive.
I was thinking that's grown up a little bit.
How hard is it to make them the old-fashioned way? I mean, do people in
India
have
I've done it. I made papadum. It's hard because you do the dough, you knead it, you have to let it rise, then you make a little thing, and then you cook it in a frying pan. It's hard to get it to puff up perfectly. It's work, and
you need to use a little bit of butter.
Oh, a lot of butter. Ghee. I use ghee for real authenticity. But and it's delicious, but it's hard to get them really fluffy and light.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's take a break. It's
not just weather break.
So those were our, you know what? That's a new segment.
I like it.
Shiny time, because we have to cheer up. Sometimes the tech news is depressing. We'll just take a moment for shiny time.
It becomes an expensive segment, though.
It is. It's very expensive.
Yeah, really. I've spent $1,700 just watching this thing. For ice cream and roadies.
Oh, Lord.
Don't forget the Dyson.
And the Dyson.
For my hair? It will do me any good?
Yeah, you get a little bit of curls.
Oh, I got a lot of curls.
Look how curly he is. He's already curly.
Somebody yesterday literally told me I look like Einstein. I wasn't sure if that was a compliment.
If you grew it a little longer, you would look like Einstein.
Yeah.
You need to grow it out a little bit more, and that can be your next year's Halloween outfit.
Yeah.
Yeah, every day.
Every day is Halloween in Einsteinland. We had this has been a fun show, but this whole week has been fun. That's why we made this little video for your edutainment watch.
Previously on Twit.
So, Mom, we thought we'd have you on kind of it's a holiday tradition, right? Mm-hmm. I was getting some cooking advice for Thanksgiving. We're doing
guilt.
Some
not
guilt.
Visiting.
What kind of guilt? For not calling your mother?
Yeah, that kind of guilt.
Tech News Weekly.
Is there a helper robot on your holiday wish list this year? If there isn't, why not? And if there is, might I recommend the Anki Vector robot? Hey, Vector, give me a fist bump.
Oh? Oh, my God.
The new screensavers.
What we're going to do from now through the end of the year is we're going to do gift guides every single episode, and various hosts and I will bring in our favorite little toys and tricks and things you might want to think of as for a gift. And Alex does a lot of cooking, so you brought in a lot of cooking. But there's some other stuff
in there, too.
Yeah. This is the Amazon Basics microwave.
Computer.
You change it? Oh.
Microwave for 2 minutes. There you go.
Twit. It's what's for breakfast.
Computer, stop microwave.
That's pretty slick.
I do like that.
Yeah.
Now, I wish it would know that the corn is popped and turn it off.
Right.
Oh, that'd be cool if the microphone could listen to popping. Seems like an easy algorithm, says John.
I do that in my sleep. It's not a problem at all.
My Amazon Basic microwave arrived while I was in Paris, and I just plugged it in last night. And I had about 30 seconds of fun playing with it, and now I'm trying to figure out why it's any better than the microwave that I bought 10 years ago.
It isn't. It's because you can talk to it.
Yeah, but why do you want to talk to your? I mean, no, really. I guess for things like reheating a cup of coffee, it figures out how much time.
It was
you need
kind
to
of a
spend.
pain because with the popcorn, we said make popcorn, and it said, okay, how many ounces is the popcorn? I don't know. 2.5 ounces.
Well, then it tries to sell you
and
the popcorn.
And then it says, how long would you like to cook it? And then it tries to sell you popcorn.
Right, exactly.
It doesn't try to sell you. Does it?
No, it does. No. The app actually recommended that I buy a certain kind of popcorn.
Oh my God!
It'll automatically renew the popcorn. Maybe it actually knows how much popcorn I'm eating, and will say, "Oh, Larry, you're running out."
Oh, that's interesting. They could.
I was just sitting here thinking, that's a product I would have in my home. Amazon can't monetize like the amount of time it takes me to reheat a cup of coffee.
Yes,
I'd be okay with that. And then you made it weird.
Never underestimate the power of the Bezos.
Yeah.
So, okay, I want that Anki robot. That is the cutest
it's really cute.
little
I
thing.
know.
Wait till you find out how much it costs.
I think I might be getting him for one of my children for the holidays.
Yeah.
Your children. Can I be one of your children?
That's their third generation. That's the Vector, and they keep getting better and better, but they also keep getting more and more expensive.
It's so adorable.
Yeah, that's expensive, but God, it's cute.
Let's take a break. We got to pay. For an Anki robot for Georgia here. Our show today brought to you by Rocket Mortgage. If you're about to buy a house or you need a mortgage to buy a robot, no, they don't do mortgage.
They might
loans.
have to.
They may start, but not right now. Quicken Loans, #1 lender in the country. #1 in a couple of ways. #1 in customer satisfaction. That's according to J.D. Power for the last 8 years in a row. And now, thanks to that, they are now, as of last December, #1 in volume. I think that makes sense. If you serve customers, if you focus on the customer experience, people are going to love you and they're going to come back. They're going to tell their friends. That's exactly what happens with Rocket Mortgage. Let me tell you about, actually, this is Quicken Loans product for nerds, for geeks, people like us, Rocket Mortgage, because it's an entirely online mortgage approval process. So already, I'm in favor of it. I don't want to go to the bank, get dressed up, fill out a big, long application, and then the bank sends you home and says, do homework. You got to find paperwork and bank statements from last year and pay stubs from your previous employer. That's crazy. Instead, Rocket Mortgage, you fire it up. Go to rocketmortgage.com/twit2. You can even do it on your phone. rocketmortgage.com/twit2. And you begin the power buying process. Step 1, with literally just a few questions, no long application, they will check your credit and they will say, here's the loans for which you qualify. You choose the term, the rate, the down payment. They have very good rates, a variety of them. You pick the one you want, and now you've got pre-qualified approval. That was less than 10 minutes. Good enough so that if you're at an open house, you could do it right there and show the realtor, say, we want to make an offer. But then the next step, Step 2, Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit, usually without any intervention on your part because they have relationships with all the banks and everything. They get all the information they need. And in less than 24 hours, they give you verified approval. You get a letter even you could print out, show the seller, that makes you basically a cash buyer. The seller looks at that and goes, oh, they're good for it. They got the loan already. That puts you right at the front of the line. You're way ahead of all those other people who are saying, I'd like to buy your house, but it's contingent on me getting a loan. Nope, you got verified approval. Step 3, once you're verified, you qualify for something new. And this is because rates are starting to tick up. Rocket Mortgage, Quicken Loans, again, thinking about the customer experience. It makes you nervous. If the rates are going up, you're kind of in a hurry because if you wait, if it's not the perfect house and you want to look at some more, the rates could go up and it could cost you thousands of dollars more, even if the price hasn't changed, just because the rate went up. So once you're verified, you qualify for Rate Shield approval. This is awesome. They lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. 3 months. So you have plenty of time to look. Your rate cannot go up. Rates in the real world could go up. Your rate is locked. They didn't have to do this, but I like this. If rates go down, your rate will go down. So it's only one direction. It's either down or flat. It can never go up. I love that. Now you have 3 months to find the right house instead of rushing. This is exactly why Quicken Loans is the largest and best mortgage lender in the country. Rocket Mortgage. You could start right now, rocketmortgage.com/twit2. rocketmortgage.com/twit and the number 2. That's all one word. rocketmortgage.com/twit2. Rate Shield approval is only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. This is based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender, actually that's important. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030. You don't have to remember all that. Just remember rocketmortgage.com/twit2. If you think you're going to go out house hunting or you want to refi, go there right now, set up the account, and you'll be ready. rocketmortgage.com/twit and the number 2.
I'm going to use that. We're buying our first house right now.
Oh, congratulations.
Oh, how exciting.
Stuff. Well, we need 4 VR rooms to compete with yours.
Yeah. Keeping up with the Dowses. Wow.
Bree, we have to play Carnage Chronicles together.
Now,
all right, we can do
Georgia,
that.
have you settled on Oculus Rift or Vive? Are you one or the other?
Oh, I prefer the Vive. I do. My hubby usually plays on Oculus, but I do prefer the Vive. The controllers are still a little bit weird, but we are now wireless. So
I was just going to ask you.
Oh,
so this
beautiful.
is the biggest, and this is the reason to get the Vive. They have a wireless adapter now, so you don't have that big cord.
We have wireless on both.
Oh, that's the worst part of it. Wow.
We're wireless.
Yeah, get rid of the
both,
cord.
Actually, but it's amazing.
Yeah,
it's really amazing. I say that the first day I did notice there was a microfraction of a delay, and after that I'm fully comfortable now.
Yeah, because you were used to the
spin around. You can slash at your enemies. You can duck. Don't roll. It's dangerous, but you could
unless you're on fire. Then stop, drop, and roll.
Too soon, Leo.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I think this is a really clever idea. So instead of having the wires come off the back of your head, you have these angel wings on their head that
yeah, and it's a little bit heavier, but I didn't notice it too much. We used to have the wires that you can get from Amazon that you would hang the wires on the ceiling, but what was happening is that my children were spinning, and I didn't know it. Well, I didn't know this before, but people spin a certain way. Like you favor a certain way to spin. You're not going to unspin yourself. You will spin more, say left or right, and they were destroying the internal wires. So we had to spend $150 to buy a new set of wires, and we weren't about to go without our
Are you
VR
concerned that your children are living in a phony 3D world? I mean, does that bother you at all?
There is definitely a worry for that. And so we don't let our kids, they don't play during the week at all, any technology at all. And they get to play 2 hours a day during the weekend. And my son just got on a roll. So we gave him
that's awesome.
4 hour stretch. Thank you. But he got a 4 hour stretch to be able to play some games. And that's why they're playing while I'm on Twitch. If you hear any noise, it's them.
And is the noise going to be vomiting?
No, you don't get sick. There's certain games that you will feel ill on, but really they've gotten much better with the motion tracking and not. It's that kind of fluid movement. Try to stay away from those. I use the teleport, but
all right, I'll have to try it again.
Carnage Chronicles.
I want video of that. I want video of space pirate trainer Leo out there shooting pirates.
Oh man, it's just not.
You could start the VR caucus in Congress, Brianna. That would
I gave VR a shot. I am not that into it. I've enjoyed it.
I am too. So here's my problem. So I have, and maybe I can get some. I have Oculus Go, and I've got the Lenovo product, and they're both kind of cool. But I've never actually gone back and played a game more than once.
Well, so you need the Vive because it's a different experience.
Than I know it probably is.
It's much better, but like VR is not relaxing. It's exhausting. Yeah. Like you're playing, you're moving. It's not, if you're having a long day at work, I don't want to play VR. I want to sit and have something mindless that I can just play. VR, I'm tired and it causes more anxiety. So if you're already dealing with a high anxiety day, VR does not fit into your day then. It's not one of those kind of soothing reactions to that. And I think that a lot of people will expect it to be the same thing as a sit-down video game where you can kind of enjoy killing orcs or doing something else that you're having fun to. And I don't find that. Like walking around, ducking, running, hacking and slashing all through like 45 minutes and then I'm like done. Like I can play maybe for an hour and a half and then I don't want to play anymore and then I need to take a break because I've burned through like, I don't know what, 5,000 calories or something.
Well, that's good. That's why you can eat more ice cream.
Now I know how she does it.
Oh, yeah. So we need to get a Vive and an ice cream. How much do they cost combined if you get the ice cream maker and the Vive?
Ooh, that's
well, you also need a high-powered computer. So
yeah.
I'm saying it'll be a little bit over $2,500.
Yeah, at least.
It's about it. I wondered, though, that I was reading a story on this last week.
It's the ice cream maker Vive bundle.
Right, exactly.
They should go together.
And you can eat your virtual ice cream.
Go ahead, Brianna. I'm sorry, I interrupted
you. Oh, no. I was just going to say, I was reading a story how NVIDIA and the graphics card companies, they have a surplus of like GPUs now, that the really high-powered stuff you use in VR, you can also use it for cryptocurrency. And now that we've kind of hit a point where you can't mine cryptocurrency and make money very easily, they have like tons of like inventory left over in their warehouses. So I wonder today if you're trying to build a VR PC, if you could do it for a lot cheaper, because my most expensive component by far was that $800 video card.
Right. True.
Actually, NVIDIA's stock is in trouble, right? Because Bitcoin's crashed.
Yeah.
And the NVIDIA stock went up because Bitcoin miners were buying GPUs. And with the crash in Bitcoin value, isn't that, who would have thought? I feel bad for NVIDIA.
Yeah.
You know, who would have thought that would affect their stock price? Their stock price directly tied to the value. CNBC called it crypto hangover. NVIDIA nurses crypto hangover as demand for mining chips evaporates.
Wow.
But they're doing some really interesting things. Before I was running for Congress, I was working in the game industry, and they are doing some fascinating things with dynamic lighting, Leo.
I agree.
Really next-gen stuff.
I think this is just a measure of how the stock market works. Blockchain, Bitcoin, invest, because they're not thinking. It's all just kind of herd reaction. So that was the hot thing. So that's why they were investing in NVIDIA. But people like us who pay attention to technology, but I doubt we move the market much, Brianna. I know I don't.
Well, I don't find that my knowing about technology actually makes me a better investor. I mean, first of all, I don't invest. Yeah.
It's quite the opposite.
Exactly. I remember my mother-in-law, when Google went public, called me up and said, should I invest in Google? And I said, I don't know. Some companies go up, some companies goes down. Of course, she didn't invest. And had she invested, she would have made a fortune, and she never spoke to me again.
My dad sent me an email a couple of months ago reminding me that when Steve Jobs passed away in 2011, I told him, dump your Apple stock. Because it's all over for Apple. They're not going to innovate anymore. He didn't.
Actually, that was true.
I want to point out, he didn't. And what he sent in his email was the value of his Apple stock then and now. And you were wrong, son. Thanks for rubbing it in, Dad.
Are you still at his will?
He would have sent a much different message if he had actually dumped it, and it probably would have been on many postcards.
I'm thrilled. I sent him 17 postcards. That might be why he responded, though. I'm thrilled that he didn't listen to me. And now I really learned the lesson, because it isn't tied to. And, you could argue that Apple has innovated. They certainly are the most valuable company in the world. Not $1 trillion company anymore, but still very, very valuable. And the stock price, of course, has gone up 10 or 20-fold. But from a technological point of view, I think you could make the case that really their best days are in the past. That, financially, no, but technologically so. I don't know.
They haven't come out with things that are mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Leo, I've upgraded my iPhone every single year. I bought iPhone 3G.
Yep,
that's when I did it.
Yep.
4, 4S, 5, 5S, all the way through. And I got the phone this year. And it was really surprising because I wasn't sold on it. And I was like, I'll wait till I see it at the Apple store. And I stopped by and I saw it. This was like just 2 days after it came out, and they had a ton of stock at my local Apple store, and I bought it. And I got the Plus, and I've never taken an Apple iPhone back to stick with the old one before, ever, because I'm a huge Apple fan. But it's just impossible to justify this year's iPhone from the 10th. Yeah, it's not like the large one, I feel, doesn't bring anything better to the experience. The phone itself, like the deep learning stuff, I'm sure it will be great 2 or 3 years from now. But it's just, this has really been the first year. I don't think they brought anything to the market with the iPhone.
This is the XR, which is actually not a bad one. It's actually a little bit smaller than the Plus for $450 less, or $350 less. So if I were to buy an iPhone, that's the one I get. But actually, I love the Google Pixel 3. It's my favorite phone.
Have you played with the night sight yet?
Yeah, I just did yesterday, as a matter of fact.
Wow.
And my son was doing a concert in San Francisco, and it was a very dark room. And the only problem is it made his hair look red, and he doesn't have red hair. But other than that, it was a good picture.
One of the things that they're doing that's
it's a filter.
So night sight, they take many, many images. This is a very historically very hard picture for me to take. This is our Christmas lighting on our house, and the problem with this kind of lighting is it blows out, either the camera exposes for the lighting, in which case everything's pitch black, or it exposes for the background, in which case the lighting is blowing out. This is a perfectly balanced photo, and I think Google did a very good job of, in software, mind you. Remember, now they're taking, I think, 15 images, some as slow as a quarter of a second. So, and this is handheld, but if you do it on a tripod, it senses it's on a tripod. It'll even extend those low-end ones. Somebody's saying, you have a sniper tower? Yeah, that's my sniper tower, right. Temporarily home of Christmas balls, but, But I think that this is an example. This is amazing that a camera phone could do this.
Yeah, that's great.
And so Google, this is computational. The funny thing is it didn't do this when we bought the Pixel 3. This is something they pushed out
this week. Funny. I don't know if you can see this. Can you see this image here? So that's the marquee at the SF Jazz, and you see how it picked up Will Maggot and
you can read
HSA
the text.
You can actually read it, but the funny thing is, as I was shooting it last night, I couldn't read it at all, and I said, and just as you were talking, I said, I'm going to go back and look, and I didn't realize I had gotten it. So that's nice.
That's one of the things they're doing with their AI is, and this is really hard, is they're trying to understand what the picture is of. And expose for that. So, for instance, if I'd had people in front of the house, the people would be dark-faced to get the lights right. But if Google sees faces, it'll go, oh, you know what? We should expose for the face and let the light be over bright. We're going to expose for the face. So there's some really interesting things it's doing.
And you know about Google Lens. So, for example, going back, I don't know how it knew it, but it knew that I was at SF Jazz. Yeah. It actually analyzed the outside of the building.
There are some who would say that's spooky.
Yeah, that's spooky.
Well, it was really great in Europe when I was traveling, because I'd be at some landmark and I didn't know where I was, and I would take a picture of it and it would tell me where I am.
Yeah.
So maybe that's good for people who are senile. Where am I? Who am I?
Yeah. No, you know what? You're joking, but actually, well, at least now for people with low vision or no vision,
yes,
camera phones are turning out to be hugely valuable. There are apps that are automatic and apps that are human-driven that allow them to see things. There have always been things like bill readers and stuff, but now with Lens, a lot of that can be done on a phone. It's really remarkable.
And I use my phone as a magnifying glass all the time. If it's like a medicine bottle, I can't read. Load up.
Yeah, Larry, I do the exact same thing. If there's something that I can't read, I take a photo of it. I was taking pictures of jewelry. I wanted to see what the little stamp on the hallmark on the inside was to tell what year the ring was made, because it was from my mom. And I took a photo of it, and then I zoomed it out, and I took another photo of the zoom, and it zoomed it out even more, and it was like enhanced.
I do that in serial numbers.
Again.
I can never read.
This really works.
I can never read the serial numbers, so I'll take a photo and blow it up. Yeah.
You can put your phone in a funny angle and get. I mean, no, it's incredibly valuable in ways that nobody. And, have to give Philippe Kahn, the inventor of the camera phone, some credit here for... Actually, you heard that story, right?
In fact, we've interviewed Philippe. He came in and we talked about it on Triangulation. It's a great episode of Triangulation.
And about how Kodak didn't want it, and the phone makers didn't want it because they couldn't understand why camera companies couldn't understand why you'd want to build a phone in, and phone companies couldn't understand cameras, and he went and did it anyway.
It's a classic story of a father. This is always a problem if you're a father and your wife is giving birth. You're basically fifth wheel. You've got nothing to do. Yep. She's suffering mightily, right, Georgia? Right. And all you could do is go, oh. Oh, and so I think a lot of dads come up with things to do. In the Mad Men era, it was stand out in the lobby smoking.
Right.
But I wrote a hypercard stacked to time contractions.
And I wrote an Excel spreadsheet to predict the actual day of birth.
There you go. And Philippe Kahn, because he's an engineer, he tells the story. His wife is giving birth to their first child. This is actually a documentary that was shot. He knows he's got a phone that has a camera in it, but he wants some way to upload it to family and friends. He sees that connector. He runs down to his car, opens the trunk, pulls out stuff, solders together a solution, brings it back.
What it was he needed a way to get the phone connected to the camera, and he had a car kit for his
This is in the hospital room. He's soldering.
And he drove his wife. He drove Sonia crazy.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he
looks
shared it
like Sonia.
He shared it with us. Yeah. When they shot this, they got people that look just like Philippe, young Philippe and Sonia. And it's a great story. This is 1997.
Sophie is now 21 years old. The girl, the lovely woman who I've actually known, who was born that year.
She was the first camera phone picture. There it is.
There it is. Yeah.
She was the first camera phone picture distributed over the internet in 1997.
So I'm going to just give a little tiny clip, though, of don't do this. Your wife is giving birth. Sit there and wait. But
the problem is
going to throw this out there. Don't write
She didn't want him there.
What did your husband do?
Unless she doesn't want you there. If she says go write your code, then go write your code. But suffer along. Suffer along.
What did your husband do?
He sat there worried as can be, really, really worried. Yeah. But when I gave birth, I actually, after I gave birth, I had a panic attack. I didn't know I had a panic attack, but I had a panic attack, and I totally thought I was going to die. If you've ever had a panic attack, it's different than an anxiety attack. Yeah. Anxiety attacks, it's anxiety. Panic attacks, so after I give birth, I throw up, and then I feel this wave of anxiety because I was on so much Pitocin. You could have killed a small mammal. Ugh. And the coming off of that was just it gave me such a reaction that I said to him, listen, I think that I'm dying. Just watch my pulse. And the poor guy, he just sat there for the entire time. And I said to myself, I'm a therapist. If I was having a panic attack, I would know, so I must be dying.
Wow.
And minutes later,
and what's cool? You can now re-experience that on your Vive.
I don't know if I want.
No, you can't.
It's good that you forget because there's a reason why I do. It's because I forgot.
Yeah, you would never have another child, and the human race would die out.
Wow.
Exactly.
So
my daughter used to talk with you. She gets panic attacks all the time.
Yeah.
And thinks the world is coming to an end.
Yeah. The first video, it's really good on how to treat it. Anxiety is 100% treatable. It's exceptionally common, but Sandra and I go through all of the basic techniques of what you can do so that you will never have one. They're not at all dangerous. They're not bad for you. They're actually good physiologically for you. They're just not good emotionally for you. And it kind of goes through all the steps of what we would do for the beginning sessions. And session 1, session 2, you should be pretty good for panic attacks. They're quite unpleasant and they really do disrupt life. So
do you talk about how people, the real question is when you're witnessing someone else have a panic attack and I do all the wrong things when somebody around me is anxious or panicking.
Yeah, we do talk about what you should do, which is just stay really calm.
Which one should I? Which one is that here?
That's I think it's the red one. Session
I got them all, baby.
Yeah.
I think it's the red one.
Session 2, the journey continues. Treat your body anxiety responses. Session 3,
that one.
Calm.
Nope, not that one.
Calm, finally. Understanding what anxiety is. There you go.
That's it. Session 1. Yeah, that goes through what's anxiety, why do we have it, and then what to do about it. But if you're there with someone else and they're having a panic attack, one is stay there, stay really calm. Someone else panicking while you're having a panic attack is horrible. Don't tell them to suck it up or stop or just think happy thoughts or there's nothing to be worried about. That can make someone feel bad, and then now they're angry and having a panic attack. Distractions work really well, talking really soothing and trying to help them slow down their breathing.
It's good to know this because your natural reaction is to freak.
Is to panic. And know that it's going to be probably done in about 15 to 20 minutes.
Okay.
If you
what
can
is it?
engage,
A sudden flood of brain chemicals that are
it's adrenaline. It's a shot of adrenaline. Your body goes danger, danger, danger enough that kind of fills up the level of a threshold. When it hits a certain threshold of danger, your body says it's fight or flight, right? So it says, I'm going to protect you because you're in a life or death situation. Once your body says, I'm in a life or death situation, you get a rush of adrenaline and you go through that response. Even if when you're talking to yourself, you say to yourself, you know what, this is difficult, but I can handle it. I'm going to survive. No one's dying from this. Your brain goes, okay, well, if no one's dying, I don't need to shoot you filled with adrenaline to survive. So then why use up those resources? So what you say and what you say to yourself inside of your head really can stop a panic attack all on its own. But it's practice.
If somebody gets to my advanced age and has never had a panic attack, is it unlikely that I will have one?
Probably not. I've only had one. And that
but you
was
had a good reason. You just gave birth to your first child.
Well, you know what? Good reason. Like your body.
If you knew what you were going to pay for college, you would have another one.
Probably. But panic attacks are not that you're not good for adaptive. The most adaptive people that have really great amounts of being able to react really quickly under pressure and difficulty have strong anxiety systems that are there to keep you alive. And that's why a lot of people from the military come back with a post-traumatic stress. They are now in a situation where they were prone to like be able to react on a hair fire, which is good for survival. But then they come back to regular life.
And they've got no way to deal with that reaction.
Well, you've practiced this system to be really good at hitting anxiety where you're on survival mode very fast, and then it's not needed anymore, and it still can fire very quickly.
So you should go work for the VA.
Like we wouldn't have survived if there was only type Bs in the world, right?
I'm a type D or E. I just, I have a lazy brain. Stuff will happen, and I'll go, what?
Right.
It's that legal pot in California that
No, I'm not high or anything. I just don't know what the hell's going on. It takes tomorrow. I'll go, oh, that was bad, man.
Yeah. You see, when I went to a really dangerous, well, it wasn't really dangerous, but I went to part of the world it wasn't that safe. My husband has a much stronger anxiety system. Well, if I had listened to my natural reactions, I would have been going with this guy that says, yeah, come with me, I'll bring you to the place. I'm walking over to my husband had to actually pull me away because his anxiety system said, oh, this is not safe. And he saved my life. So again, people that are calm think, oh, it's so great. But no, you're in dangerous situations. The people that have stronger anxiety systems are the one that live. So it's like
hypochondriacs get sick sometimes. So every time I have a pain, I'm sure it's hypochondria. and usually it is. But, you always wonder, maybe this is the real one. Right. And how
that's not as good for you, though, because you're false positiving too often, and then people will dismiss it because they're like, oh, he's just doing his thing again. You want your level of fear to be within the range of natural life, and you want to think more about how can I live more, not worry about not dying more, because you can spend your whole life worrying about dying so much that you never live. And for the health anxiety, it can really, I have people that are no longer living. They're just trapped in that bubble of constantly worrying about, whatever a myriad of issues.
I feel like I have to write you a check for $350 now for this session.
No, this is good. This is good.
Oh, my gosh.
Did you, on election night, was there a little anxiety, Brianna?
No, I knew I was probably going to lose. And I said to myself, I didn't want to set my expectations very high. So I was actually freaking delighted by how many votes we got. So election night was just amazing. So I was expecting to lose, and then we did way better.
Well, what do you think it's like for Bill Nelson or these, or Rick Scott even?
It goes on for weeks, right? They finally, those elections. Yeah. You know what the worst night was? When Donald Trump realized he'd won.
Right, exactly.
Imagine the anxiety.
Exactly.
What? But we weren't supposed to win.
President now?
It's like that Robert Redford movie, The Candidate, where,
right.
It's a wonderful movie. And at the end of it, they win. And Robert Redford goes, oh, crap, now what?
Well,
we got to govern.
I started running for city council once many years ago, mainly because I wanted to raise some issues. And then I went to a city council meeting, and they were literally talking about dog licenses. And I actually pulled out of the race because I said, my God, I might win.
It's so boring.
Really?
I used to be on the Petaluma Tech Committee, which was an official committee of the Petaluma City government. And it was the most painful process. I have such respect for people who can govern because it is very painful.
I could not disagree more, and maybe this is because I used to be a journalist. I used to be a journalist too.
I am a journalist.
No, but Georgia, I'd love to talk to you about this sometime. That I feel like running for office makes you such a better person because, for starters, like all of us in technology, we kind of. Maybe this is just me, but I'm much more comfortable like in my electronic world than I am outside.
We're not outward
I'm very inward focused.
Yeah.
And it forces you to take a really hard inventory at yourself. What are my shortcomings? What am I good at? Where do I need to improve? How do I connect with people that aren't like me? Because you don't have that luxury of just saying, oh, those people are dumb or whatever. Like you have to connect with people. That's the job. And I find I am genuinely interested in people that have problems that I don't. Like last weekend, I spent my weekend at a retirement home going and meeting senior citizens and kind of understanding what they need and what they're not getting. To me, that is it's a deeply interesting process because it's all about things I've just never thought about. I've never thought to myself, what happens after I can't drive anymore? I need to go over to Walgreens to get basic stuff for my house. How do I get there? And I think running for office can make you a much better person than you are.
Good for you. I'm glad you're doing it.
Well, it's just a wonderful thing. There's so many people that are lonely outside in the world and they're just hoping to connect. A lot of them that are exceptionally shy or have social anxiety head towards technology because it's a really easy way to do it. Like running for government or even finding something that you work for the community that's in your area is a really nice way that you can connect with other people and learn that people really aren't that scary. The unfortunate part to technology is that you often feel less safe with people in real life situations than the opposite to that. And then you become more inclusive and more inside of your world. And it takes more of a toll, which can be really scary. But, for you having to interact with people every single day and talking to people with very divergent views, that must have also made you feel much more open to differences that you may not have been open to before.
Well, I think you've known me for a long time, Georgia. I've got a lot of empathy, but I swear to God, I had the most amazing lunch this week. It was with the libertarian that ran for auditor here in Massachusetts. And I'm not a libertarian. I respect those views, but we sat down for 2 hours and had the most delightful lunch. And we don't share a single view on anything. And it's just, it's really nice to develop those skills to be able to meet people where they are.
I agree.
There it is.
Someday, maybe my next life.
Well, I am a senior citizen. I'm hoping by the time I can't drive anymore, there are going to be robotic cars that'll take me to Walmart.
Oh, that's just around the corner. I think Waymo is already starting that now, and they announced they're going to do a kind of Uber, self-driving car Uber in Phoenix, and slowly roll out through the rest of the nation.
It's interesting. Phoenix. There's a lot of retirees in Phoenix. Great place for it.
Yeah. Well, part of their business, it looks like, is going to be having companies like Walmart pay them to pick up and drive people to Walmart, have them shop, and then drive them home, which is a very interesting business.
So you have to game the system, say you're going to Walmart, then you meet someone there,
right,
and then get driven home.
Yeah. I met my daughter at Walmart once for lunch, and we ended up spending a lot of money at Walmart. It was a bad idea.
That's I'm going to confess to a crime. One time I was at SFO and I couldn't get an Uber to pick me up at the airport, but there was a bus that would take me to a hotel, and it was great. I got on the bus and it took me to the hotel. It was closer to home, and I got an Uber really easily, kind of like the
really
Walmart
smart.
Yeah.
That's really smart, Larry.
I tipped the bus driver because I felt guilty.
So we're also much more comfortable with self-driving cars. Like since the AAA was doing a study where they said that in 2016, it's gone down like 15%. People feel more comfortable by 15% from last year in a self-driving car. That's a big amount of,
Leo,
of people.
You have a Tesla. You have the autopilot on your Tesla. Do you ever use that?
No, but
practically self-driving.
Yeah, I use it every time I drive. It's not really self-driving. It's just a kind of a better cruise control lane following mechanism.
But do you have the new version that takes you actually from on-ramp to off-ramp?
Nobody has that yet, but that's supposedly coming.
Oh, I thought it was out yet.
I don't. Well, maybe it is. I won't have it because I don't think I have the right hardware. But,
Leah, did you see that story this week about the guy that got control of the entire Tesla forum? Did you see that? That came out on Twitter yesterday.
They hacked the site, right?
No. This is a guy that bought a Tesla. He was one of the people that's had like huge delivery issues. And he was trying to like talk on the forums to people about that. And they would only let him post one thing a day. And he wrote to them and said, can you please classify my account as being an owner? And they said, okay. And the IT department made him the owner of the entire
account.
Okay.
But could he hack the Tesla as while he was at it? Maybe then,
He could go on and order superchargers to be installed.
Wow.
You can see the last time Elon Musk logged in was more than 3 years ago. Yeah.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
I mean, have you had like customer service nightmares with yours like that?
Not in the least. My experience has been nothing but great.
Wow.
So,
you probably know you're on the show.
No. Oh,
Be
no.
nice to
you know
Leo.
what? I thought that I would get some special treatment because Jason Calacanis said, I'll mention to Elon that you're trying to get it. Nothing. I got nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing. But I like my Tesla. I'm a happy Tesla. And I'm going to buy another one in a couple of years. I want to get a Model 3. We should probably talk about tech just briefly. It's I don't want to distract you guys. But it's kind of people expect it of us.
Yes. Isn't this week in psychology? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be wrong.
I feel like I'm very... No, not at all. I feel like I've learned a lot, and that's been very good. And I don't want to speak for our audience. They may be very happy, but I just, it is This Week in Tech, and I thought maybe just hold on for a second. We'll talk about tech. How about that when we come back?
Okay.
Our show today brought to you by WordPress. When I abandoned all those social networks, I did it thinking I'm going to blog more, and I have. And I love it because I'm on WordPress.com. I got my badge, my 12-year badge a couple of months ago on the WordPress app. That's how long I've been at WordPress.com. You want to see my WordPress blog, go to leolaporte.com. I love it because it's mine. When I upload photos or videos or content, I just posted that picture I was showing you, to WordPress, I own it. It's mine. I can upload, but I can also download images. No one can say, hey, we don't like what you're doing. We're going to shut you down. It's not Mark Zuckerberg's. It's not Jack Dorsey's. It's my site, my home, my content. And every single person in this world, especially if you're a young person, you've got to have your own site. You've got to have a place that, you can tweet, you can Facebook, you can Instagram, you can Snapchat, but you have to have a place it links back to that you own, you control, that when people, and this is the thing to think about, what are people going to find when they Google your name? You want to have control of that because if you don't, someone else does. Someone else gets to put up the video of you having a good time the other night with your pants on your head. You don't want that to be what shows up when you Google your name. You want your great WordPress site. And this goes double for a business. Every business, so important. Control your reputation online. Put up a site that shows your business, that tells people what your hours are, your prices are, a blog from the owner that, if you're a plumber, talk about plumbing tips. If you're a website designer, talk about website designing tips. And you don't have to worry about the hosting, the security, the software updates. WordPress does all that for you. There's no hassle. You do the content. They'll take care of the rest. I love the WordPress app. That's what we use to post as we were traveling around the world. I mean, it's so easy to do. I can also use a WordPress app to check comments, to block comments from spammers, to approve. I always have it so I approve comments, and it makes it a great site. My comments are great. The people who are part of my WordPress site, I follow them, they follow me. It's just fantastic. It's a real social network and such a great way to build customers. They have built-in search engine optimization, social media linking, so your customers and readers can link to their Facebook and Twitter, your content. Plans start at just $4 a month. It's actually cost me less than when I used to host it myself, and boy, it's a lot less headache. And you can launch your website with confidence because you can get help from the 24-hour, 7-day-a-week support team whenever you need it. There's a real reason why 32% of all the websites in the world run on WordPress. It's the best. Did you hear me right? That's the number. 1/3, almost 1/3 of all the websites in the world are running on WordPress. Yours should too. WordPress.com/twit. By the way, when you go there, you're going to save. We're going to give you a little bit of a 15% discount on your new plan purchase. So definitely take that route. WordPress.com/twit. WordPress.com/twit. We thank them so much for their support. See, if I didn't have your email address, I put my postcards on my WordPress blog, so you would get my endless postcards. So that's what I did, right? See, that's a way to do it. I just love WordPress. Okay, tech. How about this? Amazon selects New York City, Queens, and Northern Virginia for its new headquarters. Actually, I don't know if you guys saw Steve Carell as Jeff Bezos on Saturday Night Live on last night. But he said it's all kind of trolling Donald Trump because it's in his birthplace, Queens, and just outside of Arlington National Cemetery in Nova. I don't think that's the reason. A little upset from cities that bid for it, saying, hey, we thought you were going to be, this was going to be a more open process, and instead you chose the obvious spots. Anything to say about? I guess not.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
This was very close to coming to Boston. And,
right.
At first I was really for this. I have a really good friend of mine. She went to college in Mississippi like I did, and she moved to Seattle. And Amazon's been very good to her. She works on the AWS team. She's not a particularly technical person, but she makes enough money to own a house and have a family, and they've given her good health care.
Yeah.
Right. So at first I was very much for this, and then I started looking more closely at what the impact has been to Seattle. And, here in Boston, we have really, really, really bad mass public transit, and we also have an affordable housing crisis because we're, I think, the third or fourth most expensive market in the entire country. And I was very glad to see that we didn't come here. It didn't come here. I'm not like an anti-business kind of Democrat, but I do think you need to factor in the total cost of the community.
I think Amazon also was considering the cost of housing. Absolutely.
Yeah. Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there has been pushback in New York and I think in Northern Virginia as well from people who are questioning whether what Amazon got in terms of incentives and tax kickback is really worth it to the community.
What is it, 50 million?
Some huge amount. And then, of course, the other thing, Brianna, I'll tell you somebody who gets
1.5 billion. Sorry, I underestimated it. Wow.
Yeah. Living in Silicon Valley, it's impossible to get between Palo Alto and San Francisco in under 2 hours anywhere around rush hour because of all the successful tech companies, which is great that we've got all this prosperity in the area, but it's had a huge impact on people's lives, not always good.
Don't you think, though, that certainly Queens can absorb, another 55,000 people without too much impact? I don't know about Nova, but I think Nova probably can too.
I mean, probably more easily than Boston certainly comes. So I think it makes more sense. I think I'm glad we're having this conversation about it. And I think people are very correct to ask why we can spend $1.5 billion on Amazon and not fix public transportation in New York. I think that's a fair question. That said, I think, Amazon has brought good jobs to people I know and care about. And I these things aren't simple. They're complicated.
I think you can make a strong case. It's going to improve the tax base. It's going to provide jobs. That's as important as fixing the traffic problems. It's not like it's all or nothing on any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Now,
I agree.
In Toronto, and I'd like your opinion on this, Georgia Dow, Quayside, which is on the waterfront, Alphabet has purchased 12 acres to create a smart city Actually, The Intercept calls it a smart city of surveillance. It's a joint government effort. The government agency is Waterfront Toronto and Google's Sidewalk Labs. They're going to build the city from the ground up. Are you familiar with this and the controversy over it, Georgia?
Yeah, talk about like Google got rid of the don't be evil and they just went with be creepy. So, yeah, people are talking about it. It's one of those things that they really like pushing like if you take a look on the site, you can see all of these like really high marketed about how this is going to be amazing and, this is going to have accessible public services and, it's going to be all wonderful and fabulous and you're not going to have any more problems with, self-driving cars and no traffic and everything's going to happen. But then you kind of take a look at all of the other systems where it talks about having like an identity manager system and asking people that want to work for the company about like, what do you think about elections in Canada and how are they going to change with time?
Yikes.
And their lack of transparency in how they're going to be dealing with this is really very scary. Like it's like one of those, they try to make it this utopian thought of like green roofed condos and like, like rainbows and unicorns, where really it's like this dystopian Orwellian thought of how now Google is going to be tracking everything you do, when you use your cards, when you go to the hospital. And the weird thing for this is that, when you use an application, at least you have those terms and services that no one reads that you have to then give up all of your rights for. But how do you do that for a city? Right. You just suddenly go into there and now they're tracking you because they own this part of the city. But how clear is that? Like, do you have to swipe a card or use your fingerprint so that you can go in? And it's scary to me, yeah.
There's a precedent for this. Disney created a place called Celebration, right, in Florida, which was a Disney-designed city. They eventually kind of, I think, got out of it. But on the one hand, I understand. This is a really good example of how technocrats think about politics in the world. They think, and they're not wrong necessarily, that technology can solve a lot of problems. And if we only had full control, Larry Page said, I wish we were on an island so we didn't have this government interference thing. Remember that when he said that at Google I.O.? They feel like if you just let us handle this, we can make a utopia. But with all these government regulations, just get in the way. All these zoning restrictions, privacy restrictions. And on the one hand, I kind of understand why Toronto might want to try it. It's only a small part of the waterfront, right? It's a part that's kind of not very attractive, industrial. There's some interesting stuff here. It's not all of Toronto. Toronto's a very diverse and lovely city because of its diversity. It's got not one, but two Chinatowns. I mean, it's an amazing city. So what if 12 acres is devoted to this experiment?
It's the transparency, though. It was not done transparently. People had to fight so that they could actually find out what was happening in the first sets of terms of service or whatever contract that they had set up with Google. And they weren't, like, every time that the politicians and the people for the company were asked about it, they wouldn't say what would happen with the data, who would have access to it, what type of data would be tracked to that. And so they didn't start from this place of being exceptionally transparent and telling us what was going to happen and what wasn't going to happen. They only did that under duress. And that always is that little red flag of like, you're not going to share it.
What if only people, it's like Celebration, only people who wanted to live in the Google world moved there and kind of gave their permission?
What if you're born there? Do you get a Gmail address on your birth certificate?
Yeah, that's different.
You have to leave? Like now this area is off limits. Point. This is now for only special people that get to use that. I don't know. I think that they chose Toronto because Canadians are known for being a little bit more complacent and easygoing. Sorry to say.
Yeah.
What happens if you're born there? You get a Google issued birth certificate?
Yeah. No, you're still a Canadian.
When you're a baby, you sign the terms of service with your finger, I guess.
Dual citizenship in Google world.
Google.
Yeah.
I do want to say, as someone that sat on a lot of like local government meetings and commissions lately, I do think there is a role to play with technology working better with local municipalities. Like we were talking about automated vehicles earlier in the show. Something I didn't really think about until I started running for office is people with mobility issues and how much they're going to be relying on this. That's going to require things like zoning certain lanes to drop in, pick up passengers. We need to start thinking about the protocol for how we design roads. Maybe we want to put sensors on the side of it to kind of give an auxiliary warning beyond like camera data and GPS data about where the edges of where you can drive are. There are issues that we need to start working with cities on. And one of my issues, like I think the Intercept, where the story comes from, I think it's a good, they do good journalism overall. But like Leo, as you're doing stories on Twit, something I've always noticed is you take a second and you think about the other side and you give it. And I find the Intercept to be so reactionary that they really don't try to get another. It's like they've decided how they feel going in and they do really good investigative journalism on it. I think this idea could be done well with oversight and with permission from the community, but I would agree with you, it was handled very poorly here.
Well, let me give you the other side from an opinion piece in the Globe and Mail by David Frazier, who is a privacy lawyer that was hired by Sidewalk Labs to, he says, navigate the intricacies of Canadian privacy law. And he points out, he says that the questions about privacy didn't begin with Sidewalk Labs. Most Canadian cities, and by the way, this is true in England too, and I suspect true in the U.S., are full of sensors, and we have no idea what's there, what they do, what data they collect. Each municipality that puts in those sensors is convinced they comply with the law, but they're not transparent. There's little accountability. He says what we're doing at Sidewalk is much more transparent and accountable than the norm in Canada. And so he reassures people, just wait, watch. Of course, this is a legitimate concern. That's why I, as a privacy advocate, was hired by Google. And we think we're going to do it right. And you hold us to a high standard. So I think that's another way to look at it. He says a lot of the data that they're talking about is things like weather data, pollution data, pollen count data, traffic counts, energy consumption, recyclables, and things like that. Not necessarily personal data. So I think I think it's reasonable to be concerned. I think you're right. The Intercept is a little knee-jerk sometimes in these issues. And there's both sides of it. I'm not going to move to Celebration, Florida, because I don't want to live in Disney's world. That's truly dystopian. Yeah. But at the same time, I think it's interesting to hear at least attempts. This is really the problem we have in general, which is that I think Silicon Valley has a certain arrogance, and technocrats in general have a certain arrogance about and I'm going to say our intelligence and our ability to solve these problems. And we look at politicians, and I did this on the committee, and it's such a slow, arduous process. Let's just cut through this. I know what we should do.
Yep.
And I had that experience serving on that digital committee in the city of Petaluma. It was a real pain in the butt.
This conference I went to, in the first conference I went to in Paris, where Justin Trudeau spoke, was actually called the GovTech Forum, and it was all about European companies and European governments getting together to try to figure out how tech could make cities better and smarter. Things like a smart bench, maybe at a bus stop, that had solar and had Wi-Fi and had, information that was provided to citizens that would be in public spaces. So there are some very cool things I think that tech can do to make cities better, but I'm a little nervous about the idea of a tech essentially owning the city or owning even a big chunk of the city.
Maybe it should be a cooperative
having a monopoly
thing.
Exactly.
Is a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, Google could probably. Google's already done some great things for public spaces. There's free Wi-Fi and large amounts of mountain view, things of that nature that I think can be encouraged.
Do you think that the example offered by Code for America or the U.S. Digital Service is a good example of a kind of public-private partnership to improve government transparency, government services, with the best technology, but not independently, but not set up an independent government, but to work to make government work better for everybody. I think that's a good model.
Yeah, they've done very good work. I have friends of mine that work there. They're doing the right thing.
Matt Cutts, who is, of course, the acting director and has been for the last 2 years, is a great guy, and he's been on the show many times. And I think that this is an example of doing a good job, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Making things better. Julian Assange.
My friend Julian.
Speaking of The Intercept, right? Julian Assange, the creator of WikiLeaks, apparently has been charged by the U.S. government under seal. No one knew about this, but in a filing in an unrelated case, it came out. The Washington Post got the story. He's been charged under seal. Prosecutors inadvertently revealed in a recently unsealed court filing. He's charged with, I guess, cooperating with the Russian government. I have very mixed feelings about this.
Yeah.
We know that people like Roger Stone and others went to Julian, perhaps enlisted his help in publishing emails from the DNC that had been hacked by the Russians to undermine Clinton's campaign. On the other hand, I think WikiLeaks has, in other cases, done really good work. Governments hate things like revealing the U.S. drone program. I don't know what to think about this one.
I'm always amazed when people, when court cases are getting adjudicated and people want to make up their minds about it before any facts come to light. Like,
we don't even know. We don't know what the charges are. We just know that he has been charged. And by the way, in this Post piece, they mention that the Obama administration, and remember Barack Obama was furious, really mad at Julian Assange as he was at Edward Snowden.
Yeah.
But the Justice Department concluded, according to the Post, that pursuing Assange would be akin to prosecuting a news organization, have a chilling effect on the First Amendment.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to see the facts of the case come to light. I want to see what's going on there. And I think you say it perfectly, Leah. Like, there are things they've done there very good. There are grave concerns to have about WikiLeaks and who's funding it and how they're getting information out there. I think there is reasonable suspicion that WikiLeaks does have some ties to the Kremlin. I think that's a fear that is reasonable to have. And I look forward to the facts of this case coming to light.
Very politically well-spoken.
People think that's like BS, but the truth is, like,
that's the right answer. It's just not a satisfying answer for people who want you to pick a side.
Well, like Avenatti this week, he got arrested on some really very serious charges. Now, I don't know this man, but when I used to be a crime reporter, I've seen people get charged with things and then you look into the facts and it doesn't play out. Like, it's just reality. We've got to wait to see what comes out in court.
Yep.
Right.
That's why people hate politicians.
I'm sorry.
Pick a side, dang you.
Please have me back anyway.
No, I love you. Are you kidding? Barry Pollock, one of Assange's attorneys, said, quote, "The only thing more irresponsible than charging a person for publishing truthful information would be to put it in a public filing information that clearly was not intended for the public and without any notice to Assange." He's kind of pissed.
Yeah.
Obviously, I have no idea if he actually has been charged or for what, but the notion that federal criminal charges could be brought based on the publication of truthful information is an incredibly dangerous precedent to set. I kind of agree with that. The modern world is very difficult.
Yeah.
It's because on the one hand, WikiLeaks, if they're publishing truthful stuff, it's truthful. They're not lying. On the other hand, if they're doing it with the support and behest of a foreign government with an intent to undermine an election, well, that's not good. So
one of the problems with our current public discourse is we're supposed to like and hate people, not based on what they actually did, but whether what they did, how and who they are relative to our political philosophy. So if you're a Democrat and the person that got arrested for sexual harassment is a Democrat, you're supposed to defend them. But if you're a Republican, you're supposed to condemn them. And it might make sense, as Brianna says, to just sit back and look at the facts and judge people on what they did rather than who they happen to believe, whether their ideology and your ideology happen to coincide. But that doesn't seem to be the case. I mean,
it doesn't drive traffic. It doesn't build ratings. It's, we got a 24-hour news cycle here. We got to fill it with something.
Well, and the politicians are all over. I mean, condemning what's his name in Las Vegas, who was a friend of Trump, and then but not condemning people who are friends. And the idea that politicians would parse things based on ideology rather than what kind of a crime was committed. Now, when Julian Assange first came on the scene, I kind of liked the guy. I mean, I thought of him as a muckraker, as a journalist, as a guy who was uncovering bad stuff that the government was doing. But then I started seeing other things I didn't like. For example, exposing information about low-level operatives and putting them in danger. That isn't a necessary component of exposing corrupt government. And so, it's hard to kind of judge him because of the complexity and the various things he's done.
Yeah. Maybe it isn't black and white. Maybe some things are good and some things are not. I don't know. This, in 2010, WikiLeaks released classified U.S. military video showing how drone strikes are used to kill not only bad guys but other people, civilians, journalists. This was doing good work.
Exactly.
And this is when we first learned of WikiLeaks. So I just don't know. It's very hard. Maybe I'm going to agree with Brianna and say, let's wait until we get some more facts. It doesn't really.
We're not sitting on that jury, right? The point of having a jury trial is it's going to be adjudicated. They're going to be given facts. Charges will be brought, and he will have his day in court, which is exactly as it should be. Leo, you and I are not sitting on that jury, so we'll let someone else handle that.
And believe me, when you sit on a jury, it's hard. It is hard.
It's terrible. Yeah.
If you've ever served on a jury, I did briefly on a federal jury, and that's hard work, and I commend people who do it. I know so many people who say, I got to get out of this jury duty. I got to figure out an excuse. Right. Serve. This is one of the most important things you can do in our country is to, if only the people who couldn't figure out how to get out of jury duty were on jury duty, you better hope you don't get arrested.
Yeah,
right.
I think that what we can all agree on is that democracy won't survive in a vacuum. It's like an active process, and it needs to take effort and monitoring to make sure that it thrives and stays healthy. Yeah. And so we need to make sure that, our journalism and what's out there is really an act to keep democracy alive.
Yep.
And I think one thing that is a positive sort of silver lining of the Trump administration is that journalism has been made great again. Politicians who are coming up like Brianna to challenge people in authority have been made great again. Protest is made great again. So there is a lot going on right now.
America is getting better.
America is getting great. Maybe. It's always been great, but parts of it are getting great again.
It worked. All right, let's
Do you know what I think, Larry? Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
This will be quick. Something I've really thought about is when I go and vote, it's always 60-year-old, 70-year-old women running the polls. I think Trump has really been a wake-up call to people of my generation. I just turned 42 this year, that we've got to get up and serve and do our part. I've never voted in my entire life where I saw women my age running the machines and helping with the election. And I really do think it's really been a big wake-up call to my generation. This is our country too. And no generation gets to sit it out, right? And this is our turn to kind of step up and steer the ship and do what we can.
And when you
the
see
younger
somebody,
you are, the more years you have to deal with these issues. So
when you see somebody like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez at the age of 29 entering Congress in January, it's just inspiring. I want to see more millennials, more young people participate in the process. That can only
and vote.
Yeah. Well, they did. I mean, we don't have a great history, especially in midterm elections, of voter turnout, but it was historically high this time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And every one of them was fraudulent, according to some people.
Well,
Can I just say something that is technologically related, but not on the show notes of what's up with your voting machines? What is up with not having paper ballots? Paper. It's like it's easy. You have paper, and then you have a track of it after. I'm just throwing that out there as an idea that maybe you want to think about.
Well, I'll tell you why we're better than Canada. Because in this country, every county gets to choose its method. And it isn't voting is not a federal process.
Right.
It is a local process. And unfortunately, the side effect of that is some localities aren't too smart. But Florida, I'm looking at you. But in the long run, I think this is a beneficial thing. First of all, because we have such a heterogeneous system, it's impossible to hack. But also, I think that one of the things that...
Did you just say it's impossible to hack?
Yes. You can hack an individual county.
Not the entire
country. You can
country.
hack a machine.
One machine. That's the problem. It's very hard. It's very hard to hack the entire system.
You can hack the software that's on all of them when they update as well.
No, but they're all different. Nobody uses...
You can't hack paper really hard.
No, I agree. There should be a paper trail. I completely agree. And I think it's 13.
And a machine.
There are 13 states that don't have a paper trail. I agree with you.
Blood drops and paper.
Blood drops I'm not sure about, but paper I think is important.
Fine.
I don't know, Leo. Like when you sit down, you're really working on winning an election. You sit down, you look at the counties. So for like me in 2020, we know how many votes we got in Boston. We know how many votes we got in Dedham. It really is micro-targeted. And you're right that you can't hack the entire system. But the reality of winning elections is you're really hyper-focusing on 1, 2, 3 targets.
I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that makes you responsive to those regions. Now, I think, there are things you can do to try to hack it. Much more damaging than hacking a voting machine is gerrymandering or voter suppression. There are things you can try to do. But honestly, I think that one of the things that makes this country strong is a strong focus on locality, on local politics. And I really do think that that is very, very powerful. It is also one of the reasons we have divisions in this country because geographically, there are very disparate points of view, a lot of it depending on geography as much as it is on anything else. And that makes it tough to have a single unified point of view. I don't think that's a bad thing.
But it is true. One of the, when Trump complains about all the so-called illegal voting, the people who push back are largely the county clerks and the state attorneys general, many of whom are Republicans, many of whom love Trump. But they also love the fact that they have integrity and they're proud of their integrity.
We know what the strength of this nation is, and it really is, in that free vote. It is in. I think all politics should be local. I don't think it. I don't like a completely federal system. So, with all due respect to Canada, I don't know. You have a paper trail on all your ballots in Canada.
Hey, they legalized marijuana countrywide.
We don't have machines. We have only paper.
Wow.
We count them by hand.
Nothing wrong with that. But I honestly think that having a single federal way to vote is not a good idea.
One person from each party is there while the votes are all counted.
Right.
And if there is a vote that two people think should, there's 3 parties often, but then they end up having if there's a vote that's like a medium, you're like, I don't know if this should be or shouldn't be included, they all then vote to whether they keep the vote or if they do not keep the vote.
Yeah.
Just again, to try to keep it as honest as possible, because I think that you're right. Divergent views are really important. They make countries strong. We need differences in opinion. But you also want everyone's vote to count because they've spent the time to go there. You don't want them to feel disenfranchised and frustrated and upset. So you want both.
And there are, and we've done interviews on triangulation with people who have proposed more equitable solutions, more equitable systems, things like ranked choice voting. There's a lot of thought being put into this academically, but I wouldn't really want to see a federal system employed. I really think that it's better for localities to decide how their locality is run.
But Leo, if I can just push back on that for a second, how would you handle something like in Georgia where they had voting machines and they're left over in a warehouse and they're just not put out in certain precincts with people of color? I mean, to me, that kind of problem seems like it's really designed for some sort of federal oversight because,
until the Supreme Court overturned it, we used to have a system, but that was a correctional system to correct for inequities mostly in the Southeast. We're talking about the Voting Rights Act. I think honestly think the system works. I know this is a little controversial. I agree that there are inequities, local inequities. Georgia's might be a good example of this, and it's up to Georgians to fix it. I honestly think it is up to Georgians to fix it, and the best solution will come from Georgia, just as the best solution will come from Florida to their issues. That's how it should be done, in my opinion. I think that's where I kind of come down on the side of states' rights is a very loaded term because it's mostly used to defend slavery.
I don't think it is.
But I think but
I understand what you mean.
There is something to be said about that. There's not going to be a perfect system. But I think better for Georgia to fix this. And you know what? If you're in the state of Georgia, and boy, I have to say, I think they're making progress.
Oh, definitely.
I think this election was a really interesting turning point. And if you're in Georgia, if you're in Gwinnett County and you're getting counted, if you're an African-American in Georgia and who's been disenfranchised, it's time to stand up. That's why these things can be fixed. You don't look to Washington to fix it. Now we really are getting political.
Way out of touch. Yeah.
That was me.
I do have a bunch of little stories we're going to get back to and finish this up because we've already gone 2:17. But you guys are so amazing. I don't ever want to stop this show. I don't want to stop this show, but I do have to eventually because otherwise I'll faint with hunger, and so will you. Our show today, and all our shows are brought to you by CashFly. A little tip of the hat, a nod, props to CashFly, the content distribution network that brings you Twit every episode. If you download it, if your podcast application downloads it, you're getting it from CashFly. Make this the last, and the reason we can do this, and we've been doing it for almost 10 years, petabytes of data every single month, is because CashFly makes it possible. I never get a call at 3 in the morning saying, oh, CashFly's down. No, and I never have to worry about billing spikes. You know, our demand is very spiky. Some months it's huge, some months it's lower. Some days it's huge, some days it's lower. I don't have to worry. I don't have to log in every day to see, oh my God, am I going to exceed the bill? We have a plan tailored to our CDN needs based on yearly, not daily, monthly, weekly, yearly usage trends. And on average, customers like you who switch to CashFly will save more than 20%. That's a really good deal. CashFly eliminates CDN outages. They literally have a bulletproof 100% SLA, 100%. They help customers reach new markets. If you are in the business where customers download software, podcasts, whatever kind of content, you need a CDN that brings the content closer to the customers, a distribution network all over the world. That's what we needed. We need 100% availability. We want a bill that's predictable, and we want to save money. That's CashFly. CashFly for us has been amazing. CashFly for you will be amazing. Since 2002, CashFly has been building trusted CDN relationships. Companies like, don't just take my word from it, Ars Technica. Ars' director of technology said sometimes we have spike events generating 15 to 16 million page views all at once. With CashFly, you don't see an issue. The CDN just absorbs it. Our customers commend us on that. We've been hosting all of our shows, audio and video, on CashFly for almost 10 years. Let CashFly give you some sanity back. We've got a great deal. I'm really pleased to say this. If you go to twit.cashfly.com, you can receive up to $2,000 in credits when you switch to CashFly before the end of the year, before January 1st. So immediately go get your complimentary quote. No pressure, no sales pitch. They just talk to you about your current usage and how CashFly can save you. Twit.cashfly.com. Rates are based off 30% off MRC bill credit applied for a 12-month period, but don't wait. This only lasts through the end of the year, January 1st. Twit.cashfly.com. And I can't say it long enough, loud enough, often enough. Thank you, CashFly, for making Twit possible. This network would not exist without CashFly. All right, couple quick stories. We're going to run through these. I'm very happy, and I'm sure Brianna Wu is doing a little dance. The California man who made that deadly swatting call has pled guilty and got 20 to 25 years. This is a plea bargain. The judge has to accept it. He had pled not guilty, but this is the kid. They had a $1.50 wager in a gaming thing. He swatted somebody, gave him the wrong address. The police arrived, killed the completely innocent man answering the door, Andrew Finch, 28 years old, a family man. That's murder in my book, and Good news. Tyler Barris, who was a serial swatter, has admitted to making the false report resulting in a death, as well as cyber stalking and conspiracy. The deal he made with prosecutors sends him to jail from 20 to 25 years.
Yeah. This is really good news. I mean, a lot of why I stood up in Gamergate, I was hoping to build a legal precedent for exactly this kind of action. It's truly tragic that this man died because of this guy that was given far too many second chances. He had a real history of doing this. If I remember correctly, he had called in threats to local television stations, and somehow, after spending time on jail, was able to get yet another chance to do this thing. So I'm really happy this precedent has been set. I think a lot of people in gamer land, I say this as a gamer, we kind of think of a world without consequences for the things that we do. And this is a very stark evidence to the contrary.
I agree. I think that a lot of gamers kind of looked at it as something that was funny.
It's funny,
not really the real life. Like the real life consequences to dealing with this, not only, resources, but the danger that happens to that. And, hopefully this brings all of that to light as not a funny, cute way to get when you're angry at someone, to be able to get back at them. So
we were swatted a couple of years ago, and that's where, just if you've never been swatted, that's where, if you've never been swatted, and I know there's a few of you who haven't, but that's where somebody pretends, this person called the Petaluma police and said, I have planted bombs throughout the Twitch studios. I am now going in with guns to kill everybody. Goodbye. I heard the recording. It was very chilling.
Wow.
And but credit to the Petaluma police. They came over. They brought bomb dogs, but they did not come in force. They did not break down our door. They handled it exactly right, protected us. Everybody left the studio. We let them proceed searching for bombs. Of course, it was a hoax. And by the way, great expense to the law enforcement that has to spend all that time. They had to bring in dogs from another jurisdiction. But thank you, Petaluma Police, for handling it right. And shame on anybody who does this. And you know what? You're risking significant jail time.
Yeah.
Did they catch them?
No. Most of these guys, you don't get caught. They use phony numbers. It's very hard to catch them. But this guy deserved to get caught because he kept doing it again and again. I think what was his Twitter handle? It was something like serial swatter, practically. It was like, this guy was like completely out in the open about the whole thing. Japan has appointed a government cybersecurity strategy chief, Yoshitaka Sakurada. He has never used a computer.
Wow.
In response to a question from a lawmaker in the House session on Wednesday, Sakurada said, "Since I was 25 years old and independent, I have instructed my staff and secretaries. I've never used a computer."
What do you think of that, Bree?
Now he's in charge of cybersecurity.
He has updated all relevant patches, is not vulnerable to 0 days, has an impressively small attack surface. I think this guy's working at the next level,
That's
George.
Security, right? Don't use a computer. Now hack me.
Yeah, right. Good role model.
Yeah.
68 years old, never used a computer. He's now in charge of cybersecurity in Japan.
Wow.
How does that even happen? Shouldn't there be a question somewhere?
Who knows? Elon Musk got FCC approval for his plan to put 12,000 satellites in space, low Earth orbit. It's in 2 stages. The FCC just approved the second group of 7,000 Starlink internet satellites. Musk says Starlink will take about 6 years, so around 2025. Every square inch on the planet Earth should be wired for high-speed, low-latency internet access. And he's not the only one. At the same day, the FCC approved 3 other companies, Kepler, Telesat, and Leosat. That's my personal favorite. To put in some sort of satellite internet. This is going to happen very fast. Now, I know we don't have a great history of this. You may remember a company called Iridium.
Yes, I had one of their phones.
That kind of didn't. So it's you can build it, but you got to get people to use it, and you got to have a business model and so forth. But
it has to work.
Yeah, it has to work. Well, I think it'll work. I don't think it won't
work. The Iridiums
work,
but they were really very unreliable, the one I had.
And it was expensive, and Iridium went bankrupt. And the thing is, with satellites, they're still up there. One of the things the FCC required is a plan for when the satellites are either obsolete or starting to decay, the orbit's starting to decay. And I think in most cases, the plans are something to do with maybe somebody from Rocketdyne could help us. Maybe they have a jet to fire. They got to launch themselves into the atmosphere so they burn up. Or I guess you could launch yourself into space, but that's not going to be a good solution. So go burn up. There are, in the hearing about this, they were talking about, there are currently, I think NASA is tracking 500,000 individual pieces of space junk.
Yeah. Wow. Is there any room up there for this stuff? I mean,
it's a big area.
This image of getting in a spaceship and having to vector around all these satellites. You get through.
One of the FCC commissioners, Jessica Rosenworcel, who is one of my favorites, pointed out that she said, my favorite example of this is an innocuous little screwdriver that slipped through an astronaut's grasp and has been circling low Earth orbit at 21,600 miles an hour for the last 35 years.
Oh, my gosh.
You wouldn't want to run into that in a dark night.
Yeah, it was so interesting. I was after I lost my election, I went down to Tour Kennedy Space Center, spent a few days down there, and it was really fascinating to go down there. And this is good, and it was bad at the same time. One of the biggest things that ever impacted me was the loss of the Challenger when I was a child. And you can go down there, and it's all private companies that own a lot of those NASA landing sites down there now. Like you can see Jeff Bezos's Blue Origin, and SpaceX was launching while I was down there. And,
they don't own them though, right? They lease them.
Correct. They lease them from the government.
But they have their logos and everything. It's like they own.
They do. And, I think as we're figuring out how we need to colonize space, I do think private industry has a role to play. So it's good and it's bad. But, this is one of these things like we were talking earlier about just rooting for or against somebody. At some point, I feel for good reasons, we decided Elon was a villain. But I was really happy to see this come through because I do think that they are doing instrumental work in kind of getting us to the next chapter of space exploration.
And I think it has to be cooperative. I mean, we don't want private industry to own space, but I think it's appropriate for private industry to work with governments. The last thing we want is a space force and, a war up there and us fighting. But at the same time, we don't want, one company, SpaceX to own the moon. So it's got to, it's all of ours.
Well, it's like an airline. Airlines don't own the cities that they fly to. They just get you back and forth. And
it's appropriate. I mean, I'm sure that many of these companies are looking forward to the day when they can harvest asteroids. There's huge amounts of valuable water, metals, all sorts of things. These asteroids, one asteroid could be worth trillions of dollars. And so there's a monetary incentive, but that's great. That's great. Yeah. Let them make some profit. There is a wonderful, I'm going to plug this because one of our regular contributors, Amy Webb, worked on this program. It's called The First. It's on Hulu, and it's about a private company launching a trip to Mars, but it takes government support, government funding, as well as a private company. And what Amy did, she's a futurist, is she designed what the world will be like. I think it's 2030. And that's a fun part of it. I really liked this show. Sean Penn, when Amy talked about it, I said, I hate Sean Penn. You know what? He's great in it. I don't hate Sean Penn. He's great in it. It's a really fun show. 8 episodes. But it ends, and Amy was quick to say this, as they are launching to Mars. You don't get to Mars. I guess that's season 2. The First on Hulu. All right. Continuing on. Sad, a couple of passings we should probably note. Stan Lee, 95 years old, the creator of Spider-Man, and I think a geek hero because a lot of us read comic books as children. Stan passed away at the age of 95. And here's one that's probably lesser known, but I think in many ways a very important person one of the most important people in the early days of microcomputers, a guy named Bill Godbout. And I know, Larry, you remember Godbout computers, Godbout Electronics. He was a big promoter of a standardized bus for CPM computers called S100. It was a very important point in, I think, making computing accessible. Sad to say, he perished in the Camp wildfire. He was in Concow, a town which mostly burned. 79 years old. So
horrible.
And
I knew he died. I didn't realize he died in the fire. Oh my God.
There is a GoFundMe that you might want to search up. GoFundMe, search for Bill Godbout. They're trying to raise some money for his family, and so I think this is a well worth contributing to. He was a real. We owe great debt to Bill Godbout, and the Camp Fire, of course, one of the worst fires in the history of California. And
that kind of brings it home. I didn't realize that that's how he died.
I know. It's very sad.
I didn't either.
I'm reading an obituary of his right now in The Guardian.
He was, it's funny. I don't think I remember the name because I had S100 computers. I was, loved. That's when I first started playing with microcomputers. Is in that era, in the late 70s. But I think nowadays I wouldn't expect many people to remember the name Godbout.
No.
Let's see.
Something uplifting.
Happy.
How about Alphabet and those contact lenses? That was really interesting.
That's not happy.
Well,
that's an example.
I think it's a happy story because it's the Thanos.
They're giving up.
Theranos effect. Yeah.
They're giving up. So Alphabet has a company called Verily, their life sciences division. Before it was Verily, it was still a Google company about 4 or 5 years ago. They announced, and we talked about it, everybody talked about it, a contact lens that would have circuitry in it that would measure glucose levels. It would be kind of the holy grail. It's a holy grail for a couple of reasons. There, I think, are 14 million diabetics type 1 and 2 in the country. I'm one of them. I'm a type 2 diabetic who need to monitor our blood sugar for health reasons. In some cases, it's for life and death reasons. And right now it involves a pinprick and a draw of blood. And it's painful. It's annoying. It's difficult. It's accurate. And there's been a holy grail for us to not have to prick ourselves, but also from the tech industry, because that's a lot of money you could make on 14 million diabetics if you could just figure out a way not to have to prick your finger. No one's done it yet. You remember Tim Cook?
Isn't Apple working on something?
No. Tim
supposedly
Cook,
a patent?
No. Tim Cook was wearing an Apple Watch. He said, right now I'm wearing a diabetes sugar monitor on my watch. No one can figure out a non-invasive way to do this. The best they've got right now is a little patch that actually does penetrate the skin, and you wear it, and it'll give you continuous measurement. That's pretty cool. Verily thought, what we're going to do, the tears, sugar, turns out it's wildly inconsistent. It has nothing to do with your blood sugar. And basically Verily has said, this isn't going to work.
Maybe the reason I realize this is more personal for you than it is for me, Leo. So it's undoubtedly, it's a setback for people with diabetes, undoubtedly. But I read this and I was thinking about John Carreyrou's reporting on Theranos in his blockbuster book, Bad Blood.
What a great book.
And it's wonderful. And I love to see Silicon Valley taking a step and saying, you know what? If the science isn't there, we can't sell this be honest. The stakes are too high for vaporware.
Thank you.
And let's put the patients first. So that was my read on this. I saw this as a step forward with responsibility.
You know what? That's exactly it. That's an excellent spin. It is rare that a company will say, we tried it. It didn't work.
Yeah. And I'm hearing mixed things from people about the Apple Watch and the EKG or the ECG monitoring.
That's still not out.
I was very excited. It's not out, so we don't know if it works yet. No, I know. I've got mine right here, and I'm waiting for that software update. But we'll have to find out. It's a big experiment. Is this going to lead people to unnecessary trips to the hospital because they're getting false positives, or is it going to actually save lives, or maybe both? We don't know yet.
I have a Cardia. I don't have AFib.
Yeah, the Cardia.
But I bought
How do you like the Cardia? I'm actually meeting with them this week.
It works. This is essentially how the Apple will work. A normal...
It's only $99.
Yeah. A normal EKG, you have, I think, 12 electrodes placed all over your body. Even with those, there's about a 25% false positive rate. I 10 to 25%. So this system, the Cardia system, is very similar to what Apple Watch will do. It has two sensors. In the case of the Cardia, left hand, right hand. In the case of the Apple Watch, your wrist, and then you'll take your other hand and put it on the stem. So it's very similar. It will do an EKG. You raise the exact problem, though. If it has a false positive and somebody goes in for treatment and there's nothing wrong with them, that's not a good thing.
And what about, we need an anxiety doctor. No, I'm serious about that. Is the anxiety that so every time I get a blood test, I am on pins and needles, and no pun intended, until I get the results, because I have this horrible anxiety that something bad's going to come out of it. And I have a Cardia in a box, and I'm actually nervous about using it.
But you don't have AFib. And I have
not that I know of.
So somebody I know who has AFib, Jeff Jarvis, the host of This Week in Google,
I know Jeff,
has had AFib, has been treated and hospitalized for it. He is thrilled with the Cardia, because part of the problem with AFib is you may have some symptoms, but be not fully symptomatic. So in a way, it's a relief to him that he can do that and say, I don't have AFib. And by the way, in every case, both with the Apple Watch and the Cardia, it gets sent to a real physician. You're not self-diagnosing.
But it can be one of those feeding loops, right? That you want to constantly check and look over and look over. I do have a lot of my clients that check their pulse constantly, and then having an Apple Watch where you get this feeding loop of you're worried, you check your pulse, then you feel better. That's a reward, right? So then you go through the cycle. Next time you worry, you want to check your pulse again, so you get that relief. It can become something that's a little bit addictive to certain set of the population.
But if you ever thought you might be having a heart attack, what happens is the anxiety of worrying about the heart attack actually creates symptoms of a heart attack.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And then you're going to become the self-fulfilling prophecy. Well, you don't get the heart attack, but you get all the symptoms. Well, not self-fulfilling,
but the fear of that is really traumatizing. And yes, a lot of people that go to the hospital thinking that they have a
But every doctor I know says, if you think you're having it, don't drive yourself, but get to a hospital, because there is a direct connection between the amount of time that you get, how long it takes to get treatment, and the chance for survival. So don't say, I'll sleep on it. No.
Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah, very good point.
Get your wife to drive you, or your husband to drive you, or get an ambulance. Don't take a chance. And nobody at the hospital is ever going to yell at you because, oh, no, you didn't have a heart attack. It was just gas. No one's ever going to yell at you.
Right.
It's a good thing to do. Now,
and if you live in Canada, you don't have to worry about paying for it.
Yeah. Well, that's a bit of an anxiety. I have this ring that I wear, which is a very accurate, I think, a very accurate measurement of your sleep. And I also had for a while the Certa thing. Yeah.
Wow. Is it Bluetooth?
I think I sleep worse because I know how badly I sleep.
Now, which could be true. How does the ring work?
So it measures motion, of course, because it's got an accelerometer, but it also measures body temperature and heart rate. And because it's on this finger, it can do that very accurately.
Wow. And then it syncs through, do you have to plug it in, or does it go through Wi-Fi?
Nope. It has memory. So it just stores that. It has, I think, up to a week of memory, and it's they encourage you every day to open up the app on your phone, which I'll do, and it downloads your sleep.
But you don't have to put it in a cradle. It just from your finger to your
Bluetooth,
phone.
Or Bluetooth LE or something.
And not a little ring. That's impressive.
Yeah. Oh, I like this thing.
That's amazing.
And
what is it called, Leo?
Should I give them a free ad?
Yes, you should. It's not an ad. It's a review.
It's not an ad. It's
It's the Aura. And actually, it was Kevin Rose who told me about it. OURA. Oh, right.
Because Philippe, we were talking about Philippe Kahn earlier. He has a company now that makes
ActiveX
technology. And I've actually got this thing under my bed.
Yeah, he told me about the Certa.
Yeah,
that's their ActiveX, MotionX, not ActiveX. That's something else. MotionX.
If you're in a relationship and one of you is out of town, don't have an affair, because what'll happen is you'll get a reading of that person,
honey,
sharing the bed.
Who is that in bed with you, and why was her heart rate so high?
Exactly.
I'm glad she slept well afterwards. You know what? I took the Certa out because I think I get better information from the ring because it measures temperature. Body temperature turns out to be very important. But the other thing is, the guy who makes the ring told me this, so maybe not. He said, ask the Certa people how much EMF it outputs. In order for that paddle under your mattress to measure, it's got to put out an electromagnetic field, and you put it right under your head. And I thought, maybe I'll disconnect that. I'm not saying.
Maybe you'll get superpowers. It could go the other way.
This is passive. Yeah, maybe you get superpowers. So yeah, but to get back to our conversation, I think sometimes knowing too much about your sleep, actually makes me feel more tired than if I just feel how I feel. And do I feel tired today? Yeah, I feel a little tired. I don't know if I want to know you got up 6 times, you were awake for half an hour, and all that stuff.
I had a doctor who told me to stop taking my blood pressure at home because it was causing my blood pressure to go up. Yeah. So just relax, you're fine.
I think maybe that's the best advice. That's the motto of this show. Just relax.
We're not saying don't take your blood pressure medicine, though.
You're fine.
Oh, I take my medicine, yeah. But I don't take my blood pressure 4 times a day anymore. I take it once in a while.
Right. Exactly. You're not worrying about it constantly because, it could cause more stress than what you're getting. But still be careful.
No, I agree.
You want to look like this baby right here. This is how we need to live life.
Oh, relax.
Wow.
Get the sleep you've always dreamt of. It's one of the
baby's not wearing a ring.
No ring. This baby is not checking its blood pressure. This baby is not worried about Julian Assange. This baby is happy. And that's how you should be. Anxiety-videos.com. Georgia Dow, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. You can go play some VR. Has your family been doing it since you came on 3 hours ago?
I think that they've stopped an hour
having
ago.
ice cream now.
But they're probably having ice cream right now.
Ice cream. Thank you so much, Georgia. Thank you, Brianna Wu. You're the best.
Yeah.
Brianna Wu 2020 in the Massachusetts 8th. Space
or you can go to supportbrianna.com.
Yeah. It's always a pleasure. Thank you so much. Is this
it's
now
so good to come on and talk tech. You don't understand how much I love this. So
well, we'll get soon. Can we get her back now? I just didn't want to hear you cry. So I want to wait for a month after the election. No, I'm kidding.
I was thrilled.
I'm
my gosh.
Kidding. Yeah. And you're still are you still working on, on games and stuff, or is it?
Oh, I wish. Oh God, no. Especially not this cycle where I've got a whole team.
This is a full-time job now for the next 2 years.
It is. And one of the things, like when we lost, I went and I wrote a large check to hire professionals for this time. They keep you on the stick and they will give you a guilt trip. Like last night I told her, I'm like, guys, I've worked 80 hours this week. Can I just go spend the evening with my husband?
You've got to go to the cemetery. It's raining and who cares?
But you're not joking. That's the job.
Yes.
So there it is.
Guess what? Yes.
But I love talking tech with you.
Nobody should run for Congress if they want to take it easy.
No.
We want
not the job for
hardworking.
Yeah, we want our elected representatives to work. Thank you, Brianna, for all the work you do. Brianna Wu, 2020. And thank you, Mr. Larry Maggot. If you go to his website, larrysworld.com or connectsafely.org, you can find all the good work he does to help kids especially be safe online, but also listen to him every day on CBS News Radio and every once in a while here.
Thanks. And it was fun talking politics and psychology. I want to call this TWIP. This week in politics, this week in psychology.
It's actually,
for me,
I agree with you. It's actually the saddest thing about this job is that I always have to talk about technology.
Well, I'll tell a brief story. When I got hired by the LA Times, I called a friend. I said, I have good news and bad news. This is 1983. I said, good news, I'm running for America's second most popular newspaper at the time. He said, what's the bad news? I said, I have to write about computers. Who cares about computers? And, little did I know that that would eventually become a really big story.
You know what? I love my beat. And like you, Brianna, I love talking about technology. But sometimes we get together with a group.
Yeah.
You know what? The people who are on our shows are people I love. They're my close friends. And sometimes when you get together with friends, you just want to talk about stuff.
Right.
So I hope you listeners at home don't mind that we indulged a little bit this week. But it was just too much fun. When you get a group like this, it's good. You talk about everything. Thank you, Brianna. Thank you, Georgia. Thank you, Larry. Thanks to all of you. We do this show every Sunday, about 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. We end sometimes after midnight.
Like a baseball game.
This was an 18-inning game.
Yeah, exactly.
We're nearing, in 15 minutes, it'll be a 3-hour show. So I think that might be a record setter. But we had a lot to talk about. We do it, if you want to watch live, we do it live. You can watch audio or listen to video at twit.tv/live. We're back on YouTube Live. Apple decided not to sue us, so that's good news. We were pulled down. I don't know. I've told this story, but we were pulled down. We've done this for years. I've done this since 2005. When Apple streams its events, we would broadcast a stream and comment on it. As journalists, one does, right? But for some reason, Apple hired a lawyer who decided to be a hard ass. And in the middle of our YouTube stream, they pulled us down, knocked us off. And we appealed immediately, as we always do. But YouTube Live is different from YouTube downloadable videos. The appeal takes a long time. And then they give the company that's complaining, the complainant, something like 16 days to reply. Apple never replied. We said, no, this is fair use. We're a news organization. Apple neither agreed or disagreed. They just didn't say anything. So YouTube removed the strike, and we're back up as of, I think, Wednesday or Thursday on YouTube.
Good.
Does that mean that next time you can comment?
Well, no, it doesn't. It's a chilling effect, right? Now I have to think, what am I going to do? Because I don't want to have that to happen. It took us down for 2 weeks.
We need to codify fair use, I feel, more in the law. It's a very abstract principle.
Well, it's a defense. It's not even a principle. It's a defense.
Well, Apple temporarily stopped inviting me to events that I never even hit an intern. I mean,
eventually to the Supreme Court, Larry. That's the way to do it. Anyway, we're glad that you can watch it. The thing is, we have other streams. We have Twitch, we have Mixer, we have Ustream, we have lots of other streams, and they're all available. You pick the one that works best for you at twit.tv/live. If you do watch or listen live, please join us in the chat room. It's always there's a great side conversation going on 24/7 at irc.twit.tv. That's become a community of friends. It's wonderful to go in there, and everybody says, hi, welcome, and all that. irc.twit.tv, you can use your browser, or if you're, you have an IRC client. If you're one of the old timers, you can use that too. If you're not available at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, 2300 UTC on a Sunday evening, no problem. We make on-demand audio and video available for everything we do at our website, twit.tv. You can download it there. But you know what the best thing to do would be, and it would do me, you'd be doing me an honor if you'd subscribe. That way, the minute the show is available, it gets downloaded automatically to your phone, and you can listen anytime you want. Just pick your favorite podcast app. I think you'll find This Week in Tech everywhere. You can even ask your Amazon Echo or your Google Home or your Siri to say, listen to This Week in Tech, and it'll play the most recent version. Thank you, everybody. I think we're done. Another twit is in the can. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.